All right. We should be broadcasting to the world now.
Hello, everyone. This is Michael Gibbs. I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Architects, and we are here doing some cloud architect demo interviews. And what's going on here is we've invited some people from the community to do a practice interview. And we're going to give a real life interview. We're going to ask some questions and we're going to provide some feedback. So, interviewing in general is a daunting experience. It's a bit on the scary side. And that's just life. Now, for the folks that have volunteered to do this, they're interviewing in front of an audience of thousands of people. So the people that are doing this are going to have an incredible experience. And why? They're going to have a chance to interview. They're going to interview under a real stressful environment. So when they actually interview in real life, it's going to be simple for them because it's not going to be like there's people coming from anywhere. I'm going to let you know the people that are going to do the interview. I've got some samples. We've got 4 people here. 4 others have signed up to join. Nobody has been informed of the interview questions. I don't really know the background of the majority of the people that are going to be interviewing for them, and I'm going to ask the background. Because in real life, what do we hiring managers do? We look at your resume, and from your resume, we're going to look at the kinds of experiences that you've had. And from there, we're going to judge your technical competency. I intentionally do not have resumes from anyone, but the interview is really important. So what is the whole point of this cloud architect interview or solution architect interview? Let's talk about it. The interview does 2 things. It enables you to determine if you like the cultural fit of the organization and if that organization is going to make you happy, and enables the organization to see if you're a good fit. Now, when we go through these interviews, I want you to think about it from the perspective of the hiring manager. Hiring managers will hire what they need to have on their team. What does that mean? It means people that are technically competent. It means people that they can trust. It means people that know their limitations, so they know what they know and know what they don't know. So they don't make errors like the kind of error that occurred at Facebook 2 weeks ago, where there was an $8 billion error because someone didn't know BGP well enough, made a BGP misconfiguration, and took down an organization. So that's kind of why we're kind of talking about these things. So things that organizations are going to look for in an interview are as follows: your technical competency, your safety, your level of enthusiasm, your executive presence, your communication skills, your capabilities, your attitude, your energy, your ability to be a team player, the ability to work with others. These are the kind of things that organizations are looking for. So what are we going to do? We're going to ask a series of questions. Now, I want you all to understand the technical interview process, that cloud architect interview process, that solution architect interview process. We have to gauge the following. Do you have the technical competency? Do you have the business acumen? Do you have the communication skills, the executive presence, the emotional intelligence to get the job done? So we have to see these things. It is very normal for us to ask a cloud architect or a solution architect to give a presentation. These are not just tech jobs. These are cross between technical and business executive roles. So when we ask these questions, we're going to ask leadership questions, behavioral questions, and technology questions. So we're going to be asking all of these. And when you prepare for these things, be prepared. Now, we're going to ask some of the very common cliche questions, which you should have an answer for all the time. We're going to also address questions that I know the people will most likely not be able to answer, because I want to see how the people answer a question for which they don't know. Organizations will always ask questions that they don't think you're going to know the answer to, because they want to see if you're going to lie or if you're going to be honest. So you're going to have the opportunity to do it for real, like you would in a real interview. We're going to get to things. So this should be a really good experience. So we're going to address some of the behavioral questions. We're going to address some of the technical competency questions. We'll address some leadership questions. And I've got lots of faith for all of you. It's going to be a fun experience. It's going to be a learning experience. So those are the things that we're going to do. We've got some people from all over the world here. We're going to kick it off. To kick it off, if you could let us know that you're here by typing #CloudHired, hit the like button if you're able to, the subscribe button, tell people, and let's go. Let's have some fun. Let's prepare people to interview. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to interview everyone for about 15 minutes that's on this list. And then after the interview, I will provide feedback, things that could be better for the next time. So use this as a chance. And if you're one of my students and you have a chance to watch this, watch this. You can learn what the competition does. If you're not one of my students, watch this anyway. Learn something, learn what the competition does. Be better than the competition, and you will get hired every time. Be better than the competition, you'll get paid more. Be better than the competition, get promoted more. Just be the best you possibly can be. So Chris from my team is going to bring on one person. We're going to start the interview process. We're all going to support this person. This is really hard. It's an interview in front of a giant audience. So let's be respectful. Let's be thankful. And to all you guys that are here, my hats off to you. I'm very proud of you. We're all going to make this a great learning experience. Chris, if you'd like to find the first person that will be part of this interview, and we'll ask a few questions, and then we'll summarize those questions and the kind of answers that will get people hired. So this should be a good learning experience. Chris,
Sure.
who would you like to place on the screen first?
Yeah, definitely. Let me pick the ceremonial first choice here, and something to keep in mind for everybody. You may notice that some people have cameras on, some people don't have cameras on. Some people's might be using their real names, they might not be using their real names. So if somebody has their camera off, that's for a reason. Don't think that that's normal practice. When you are doing a virtual interview, you will have your camera on, of course. So I just wanted to put that out there. So let's go with Mr. Whitfield Davis first. And I will get everyone set up.
Okay, sounds great. So Chris, I guess what you probably should do is bring Whitfield and me front and center screen, or however you're managing this, whatever you feel is appropriate. Whitfield and I will start the interviews. Everyone will be here to support Whitfield. We'll cheer Whitfield on. We'll ask a couple of questions. We'll provide the answers to get him hired. Hopefully he does them first, but if not, it doesn't matter. We will give everyone feedback to get everybody better. The whole point is this is training to be better. So Whitfield,
hey Mike, how are you?
Hi, Whitfield, how are you? Any chance I can get you to move your chair over a little bit because you're half on the screen, half off the screen?
Oh, there it is.
I would need you to move your chair to the exact opposite direction, so I think you need to move it right.
This way?
The exact opposite direction. Oh no, yeah, there we go. Okay, perfect, Whitfield. Now I can see you.
Okay.
So, for those of you that are in the audience, including you, Whitfield, watch my body language. Okay, scroll back over to the other side. Okay,
Mike,
stop.
you need to make sure that you're watching StreamYard, Mike.
Oh.
That will help you a lot.
Yep, I'm on StreamYard.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I was talking to Mike. Mike needs to watch StreamYard.
Okay, so I was watching YouTube and there's a 60-second delay, so
Yes.
I'm telling you to move. And okay,
he was already where he needed to be.
Okay, for everybody in the audience, including you, Whitfield, this is a sign that things are going well. Yes. This is a sign that I'm not happy. This is really, I'm not liking it. So if I don't like something, adapt, improvise, overcome. So Whitfield, thank you so much for coming here today. Could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
So Mike, I've been in the field now for about 18 years. I started actually on Wall Street working for Chase Manhattan Bank many years ago. I started in 1999, just basically pushing monitors around, kind of setting things up. It was my first job in IT, and I got to know. I worked inside of the data center also, so I got to see from the point of the data center all the way up to the actual desktop being set up for the user. So end to end, I worked with some of the Cisco guys. I myself started out with Windows and decided to switch to Unix. So I worked in Solaris 7 and 8, and Linux came on the scene a little later. I was also involved in the Y2K, which is pretty interesting, and got a chance to work with disaster recovery and backup for a few years, moved to junior administrator, and then moved into production Unix engineer and started to do different migrations between Unix and Linux, and actually worked in the disaster recovery environment for a long time. Spent 15 years at JP Morgan Chase. And what I got to know and what I got to find out was after leaving that environment after 15 years, I was not fully prepared to go out and find another job. It was like being a jack of all trades, but mastering nothing, just being around in many different environments. I moved from financial to retail for Home Depot for about 2 years. And that was another set of, I was back in the data center working in that capacity and working with Hadoop and Hadoop storage, and basically becoming a fixer, just fixing everything, both hardware and software. Um, Moved from that to work for NASA, Johnson Space Center here in Houston, and worked as an application support person. So I was less in a Linux capacity and more in an application support capacity, but never got, I would say, got a chance to get things nailed down where I could actually work in the cloud and learn about the cloud. It was like, okay, putting out fires everywhere and having all this experience and not really centering and focusing. And, after I gave you a call and found out, because after I left NASA Johnson Space Center, which is now, I'm trying to specialize now in, cloud and specialize in something. As you told me, it's better to have a specialty than to just have the jack of all trades. So that's been my experience in IT. What I can say is that I've met few experts in IT, and the experts that you do meet are at a very high level, or they're at a consulting level where they come in, do some things, and then you don't see them again. So I'm trying to actually learn the cloud and make a better career for myself in this new world of technology that we have going on now.
Okay. Okay. So it sounds like you've got a really big background on in technology. It sounds like you worked for a big bank. It sounds like you worked for NASA. It sounds like you've done predominantly break fix.
Yes.
Have you done any design work?
Not design work. No, I've done no design work. But I have my last application engineer support job that I had for NASA. I started to get into doing UX design, Oomlet, looking at the architecture, actually specing it out, designing it with drawings, and that really gave me a better understanding of what I've been working on for the last 2 years. Actually, getting it from that level.
Okay. So very interesting. So sounds like you've done a little bit of design. So have you worked as part of large teams?
I have back as a infrastructure engineer. I worked as part of a large team.
Oh, so you worked as an infrastructure engineer. Were you touching the network, or was it just all server stuff?
I was touching all server stuff. I would only touch the network if there was a network problem on our side, meaning on the Linux, Unix side. And then if it was something that we couldn't determine whether it was maybe um, a Ethernet port that wasn't set right, or it wasn't set to auto detect like it should be set. If we were getting that kind of trouble, yes, I can fix that. But on the larger side, when something did happen and we had both application and infrastructure outage, then we refer to guys like you.
Okay, so let me ask you a little bit about your Linux. It sounds like you've done a lot of it. There's a file that's sitting on every Linux server, and you can basically map a name to an IP address should you not be using a DNS. What's the location of that file and what's it called?
I think it's in /Etsy.
It is
Etsy/hostname.
Etsy/host. That's the file exactly for which you put mapping names to IP address should you not be using domain authentication. Okay, so navigating the Linux operating system. Let's say I've got a syslog that's full of all these error messages.
Okay.
What would I do to search for something that's relevant? Is there a string that I could do that maybe I could pop into the bash shell that would search for something and basically parse through a log file that's like 80 miles long and output it to another file that cares just what I care about? And how would I do that?
So you can use awk, and you can use sed, the stream editor, and try to find a regular expression. So it'll be a combination of awk, sed, and grep that I would use to get the exact type of file the exact type of string you would need, and also probably also maybe grep by the timestamp also, to actually see what we have there, and send it into a file that we can look at, and then out of that file, go ahead and troubleshoot what's going on, paying attention to the timestamp of when the problem actually occurred, and maybe trying to even map that timestamp to what networking might have, or what the application or database might have, and kind of cross-reference the timestamp to kind of cut down exactly where to get that problem.
Good. Strong. Now I'm going to ask you one last tech question, and then we'll go over everything. When would you use a VPN, and when would you use a private line or a direct connection to connect to the cloud provider?
So a VPN would be used if you have a sensitive application that might be set in a gateway that's set up between, let's say AWS, for example, and the application and the application team. They might use a secure VPN to get to that application, to get to that database, or when using like the private internet, it would probably be for a web server application, or something that might be using Lambda that needs to be accessed through the web. So when you don't have that security that you might need in an application, you might not want to go between that VPN gateway in your client network and the AWS network.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there.
Okay.
Two things occurred. One is the interview ended on that question, no matter what.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why, and then I'm going to give you feedback.
Okay.
When you get a question like that you don't know, it's far better to say I've not had the opportunity to work with that technology yet, but I'm highly energetic, I'm highly motivated, I'm enthusiastic, and I love tech. I know what I know, and I know what I don't know, and I know how to find the answers to things quickly, but this is not an area that I have expertise on. I've got an expertise on Linux, routing, and whatever it is that you're an expert on. Because what happens when you answer it incorrectly, that's where you really do yourself damage. So people use a direct connection when they need guaranteed speed in terms of bandwidth and latency, and people use a VPN when they're looking for the cheapest option to connect in a secure environment, and they don't require guarantees of bandwidth or latency. So there's that. And that's okay if you didn't know it, but if you guided me to the fact that you weren't sure, that would look better than getting it wrong.
Okay.
So let's walk through and dissect this interview. The first question, which was the tell me about yourself, is a very common question. It's a cliche question. You really needed to say something like, I'm Whitfield. I've been working in tech for over 20 years. I've had the opportunity to work for Chase Bank all the way to NASA. I've been at the leading edge of technology for the last 2 decades. I've had the opportunity to work in break fix. I've had the opportunity to work in the application side, and now I'm here on cloud. Something very enthusiastic. It was too long. You got to go in there. You got to hit them hard. Show them why you're there. Now, remember, hiring managers like people that are capable, which you obviously are. You had some competency that came out on there. They like people that are energetic and enthusiastic, and you got that in there. They like people that are emotionally intelligent to bring out the best in others, willing to go above and beyond, and people that are part of teams. So somewhere along the line, you needed to hit that teamwork. I'm a great team player. I'm always willing to go above and beyond. So you went a little too long in the beginning, and you started off, I've been with Chase for 18 years. I'm like, yes, 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 he's got it. And then you hit NASA and it was good. And then you started talking about being a jack of all trades and having a hard time getting a job. And that's where it really sunk. So kick it off. You should, you should hire me because, or is the same thing. Tell me about yourself. I'm a highly energetic, highly enthusiastic technology professional with 20 years experience. I've worked for Chase. I've worked for NASA. I've worked for the best. And I love every last minute of it. Something to that effect. Show some passion, energy, enthusiasm. Regarding the Unix piece, that was awesome. The ability to, grep, pipe, and run a regular expression to look at something, a combination of awk and knock. Yeah, perfect. Said, excellent example. It became very clear to me that you were very familiar with the Unix operating system, and that's why I asked you some competency questions. And it was good. Shorter, crisper, to the point for these architecture roles, because these architecture roles are executive. So one other thing, when you have something, rephrase the question. So how would you look for a file? I want to make sure I understand the question. Are you asking me how to look for a file in a Unix operating system? Yes, I am. The best way to look for the file is, and the other thing is I want to add a little gravitas to it. So you would use a combination of the knock, sed, and grep commands. Basically, what you'll do is you'll set them up, you'll create a regular expression, and then you'll output it to a file. Do you hear the difference by making a point, pausing, making your next point, pausing, and making the next point?
Yes.
Sounds more powerful.
Oh, yes.
You know Unix and Linux 100 times better than I do. I promise you do. But if you've got a little more gravitas, executive presence, energy, and you make the point and sound, people are going to believe you know a lot more. So that's the key. As an architect, you're going to start with that CEO. You're going to be asking a lot of business questions. What are the goals in the business? How do you want to shape the business? What are you trying to achieve? Do you need more sales? Do you need more productivity through decreased cost? Do you need to connect to more people? We start there. So speak the language of the CEO. Great job. Great job. Great start. And I hope we were able to give you some guidance to help make it better, but a great job nonetheless.
Thank you.
Thank you, Whitfield.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, let's hear it for Whitfield.
Let's hear it for Whitfield. Seriously,
Yes,
everybody.
that was
Let's
great.
give him a cloud hired in the chat box. He's in front of a tremendous number of people. He knows there's 80 people watching right now, and there literally would be hundreds, if not thousands, by tomorrow. So let's hear it for Whitfield. Whitfield did great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank
It's
you.
always tough to go first.
And he went first. He went first.
Now everybody's got to follow that up. All right. So we'll bring the next one in. The next one we'll bring in is Amaran. And I can't pronounce his name. I always mess it up. So I'm going to bring him in, and we'll let him go. So we get these congratulations out of the way up here, all up on the screen, so everybody. So Whitfield sees all the congratulations he got there. All right. And I'm never going to be able to get them all because they just keep coming. So
That's great.
All right. So we'll bring the next one in. Thank you, Whitfield. All right. Here we go.
Okay, Amaranth, it's so good to see you. Hi, Amaranth, and welcome to the interview. My name is Michael Gibbs.
Hi, Mike. How are you doing? Good to see you.
I'm doing fantastic, Amaranth. Thank you so much for coming to interview with us today. As you know, I need a cloud architect very badly, and it's been a long time, so I'm super excited to see you here today. Amaranth, could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
First of all, thank you, Mike. Thank you for this opportunity for interviewing me. My name is Amaran. First, I graduated with electrical engineering degree from Ryerson University, and right after university, I worked as a quality control inspector at a Ford Motor Company, where I learned all the hardware inspections for 8 months. Then I wanted to advance my technology and my career. Then I choosing the technology path. Then I worked at. Then after that, I take some certifications and educated myself, and then I worked as a field service technician at Bell. It's one of the leading communication industry in Canada. It was a company called Bell Field Service Technical Solution. It was a part of that Bell company, and I was working for more than 2 years, and I enjoyed working there. I learned a lot of telecommunication and troubleshooting skills. From there, while I was working there, I was interested in enhancing my technology knowledge. That field service technician job inspired me to go more for a foreign technology because I love tech. So I started spending more time learning about networking and cloud computing. And through that way, and I was working in the company. At some point, I wanted to advance my career to directly to cloud computing. So right now, where I am at here to do and work for and taking a challenging opportunity to work as a cloud computing, cloud related networking job. That's pretty much about my job, and yeah, that's all about myself as well.
That sounds great, Amaranth. You mentioned the word networking. The cloud's just a virtualized network in a data center. Do you know anything about networking?
I have a basic understanding about networking.
Okay, I'm going to start with something basic to check your competency. I'd like you to tell me where this subnet begins and where the broadcast is and where the usable IP address is. So the subnet I'm going to give you is the 192.168.1.2/30. Could you tell me where that subnet begins? I'm going to repeat it again. It's a 192.168.1.2. That's the IP address that I'm giving you. And it's a /30, which is a 255.255.255.252. Could you tell me the address of the network or the subnet address? Could you tell me the first and second usable address and the broadcast address for that subnet?
Okay. When it comes to subnetting, it's my favorite part in networking too. So let me repeat the question. 192.168.1.2/30. You're asking me the first IP address and the last IP address and the middle usable IP address.
Exactly. So the subnet, which obviously which gets assigned to the network that the router will look at, the two usable host addresses, and the broadcast address.
Yeah. So since it is a 1.2/30, I'll have a 4 total IP address. So which means you will have 192.168.1.0 is the subnet, is a network ID, and 192.168.1.3 is the last IP address, which is a broadcast IP address, and the middle 1 and 2 is a usable host IP address, but with .1 would be used as a gateway IP address. So those are the 4 IP addresses altogether.
Okay, excellent. That is completely correct. Could you tell me when I would use eBGP versus iBGP?
And honestly, because it's my understanding about networking, it's a basic like a CCNA level. But I'm going through some of those readings, so I know about a little bit about BGP, so I can answer that question. In fact, I would say I didn't get the opportunity to learn that in the depth to answer BGP, but for this, the basic question, I could able to answer it. So you're asking what is interior border gateway protocol, IBGP, and eBGP is the exterior border gateway protocol.
Yes.
I will be able to answer in a very with my limited understanding and with my basic networking understanding. So first of all, BGP, border gateway protocol, it's used for exterior border gateway protocol is a BGP is the exterior gateway protocol that used. I think it's better for me. I'm still not 100% like I'm not really familiar with that the BGP and to explain in a very well at this moment. And so I would say, yeah, I wouldn't take that question. I don't think I'm good fit for that to answer.
Okay, so We'll address that afterwards. There was either an answer or not an answer, versus where that, but that's okay. So let's now go a little bit further. So you've got a server in the cloud. It happens to be in the AWS cloud. You want storage on that server to persist after a reboot. What type of storage on that server would you use?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I had that understanding about if you want something to be persist, and we use the block storage option. There are cloud providers use the different names to label them. What would be that the block storage type? It could be different types. For example, cloud users they call persistent disk. AWS would use that as a elastic block storage. It's a different name, but that's what they used. It's a block storage. It's in a conceptual cloud concept. We call it as a block storage option.
Good. While we're at it, we'll ask you another technical question. What type of storage is used for objects or files that you want to write once and read many times that is not normally usable by computers, but is usable by hosts? We typically use it for software distribution. We use it for backup and archival purposes. We use it for front-ending static websites. It's cheap, and it's not designed to be used by computers, but it's used by humans to distribute software, artifacts, that kind of thing.
Okay, that's a good question. I learned that question. I learned that concept too. So if you want to read once, sorry, if you want, the question is you are asking write once, read many times, which is we are going to use object storage. That's good option for object storage because it's a human making that object storage, so the computers can not able to read that. So we are just putting all the data and static contents and binary contents and videos to that object storage, so that will be the good suitable the storage would be the object storage.
Good. Okay, now the last question. Not that different than the first question, but it's asked all the time. Why should I hire you?
First of all, I think myself as I love technology. So I like to learn. I wanted to and like improve to understand the technology pieces. So I would say I always come with the background with the technology and engineering background. So I'm a very passionate in technology. So it's almost I have almost 3.5-4 years of technical experience in the field, where I learned those basic hardware troubleshooting, and I have a strong basic networking understanding as well. And also I'm a very good at I worked for more than 2.5 years in a field service technician. I also received Merit Excellence Award. I'm very good at field internet service provisioning. Based on those technology background, I'm thinking myself, I'm very open-minded. I'm energetic and I love for the technology. So I like to learn. I like to spend my whole time to dedicate it for the technology to troubleshoot and solve the problem. So end of the day, it's I like to help customers, like a solving problem for customers. It's like a solving problem for the business challenges, being part of a team, being a great team player, participating with others, an open-minded person, and ask for help if I don't know. I'm a very open-minded person, ask for help. So I'm in the beginning of stage to going to break through career as a cloud. So I'm saying I'm a very entry-level person, but I'm a very open-minded person. So with this skill set, I think I'm able to I'm able to express, I'm able to communicate my problem. If I don't know, I will ask for help. Those kind of approaches I have to work in a team, like in a team environment, collaborate together to solve and build solve and provide a best solution for those businesses and customers in this situation. And that's why I think I will be a suitable candidate for this job role, and I think that's what I would say.
Okay, so let's dissect this because there were some things that went really well, Amra. Some things that went exceptionally well, some things that I'd like you to get better at. So let's first talk about it. Tell me about yourself, the first question, which sets the tone for the interview. That was pretty darn good. You came in, you told me about the tech, what you liked, what you're doing. That was good. Crispen that up just a little bit and try and use a little more gravitas. Make a point, pause. Make a point, pause. So remember, when you're an architect versus an engineer, the engineer is the worker. And we need these engineers. They are a critically important person. No engineers mean nothing. Nothing gets built. Nothing gets done. No tech means no engineers mean no tech. But the architect is this hybrid business executive / tech professional. So you have to have this presence or this gravitas. We're going to get some more of it by doing the following. So if our arms are close together and we talk real fast, we don't look very powerful. If we open up and we spread out and we slow it down, and we make a point and we pause and we make the next point and we pause and we maybe use a little gestures, not as many as me because I'm Mediterranean and I can't talk without my hands, but it makes us look bigger, and that's what we need to do. So to tell me about yourself, we'll work with that. It was good and strong. The first network question I answered you, solid, excellent. Logically, you repeated it back to me. That was great. I gave you another tech question. You answered it solidly. I gave you that BGP question. You had two options. If you could have said eBGP is used to connect to external organizations and iBGP is used to connect internally to exchange your routing across your organization, that would have been fine. And if you knew that, I would say, Amrath, answer the question directly, succinctly the way I did it, without all the preface, without all the equivocation. I don't know BGP. Now, if I asked you that simple question, you could answer the simple question. And then I said to you, wait, now, Amrath, what do we do with this BGP community thing? And you said, I don't know. That was where I'd say I don't have the opportunity to learn the technology yet. But I wouldn't go there in just yet. I would try and answer it with what I knew the answer to before I exposed my weaknesses. But I would expose my weaknesses and my honesty and integrity long before I would lie. So what you did, totally appropriate. If you had it, answer it succinctly. I'd say learn that because it's kind of critical because basically with cloud architecture, pretty much everything is BGP. So I'd say learn it. But, again, not a bad option. It's just what I recommend you do next time. Now, on the why I should hire you, that one fell apart. The beginning, to tell me about yourself, strong. The technical competency, some of that was pretty darn strong. But the why I should hire you, you should hire me because I'm highly energetic, I'm highly motivated, and I'm very competent. If I was part of your team, I could make sure your customers are satisfied. I could raise the energy in the team. I could help bring out the best in others, and I could help you look good by making sure that I do everything on time and on budget. Convince them why they need you. So the interviews are sales. And, I've studied sales. I don't consider myself to be a sales rep, but I've studied sales because I'm an architect, and an architect, we need to study sales. How do you sell? You solve somebody's problem. Why is a hiring manager interviewing you? Because they've got problems. They've got a lot of things that need to be done and nobody that can do it. Show how you are the solution to somebody's problem, and they will hire you, and they will pay you a lot more than the average person that's just there. So what I would say is make sure that you get a little better at this. You did a good job, very, very good job. But I'm a coach. For me, it's about becoming better every day.
Yeah.
I practice interviews myself, a lot of them. I train them, I coach them, I make interview courses. It's part of our cloud architecture career development program, as you know. But the point is it's just about getting better every day. Amaranth, really great job. Keep practicing it. Try to take some of the feedback we gave you and practice it, but really great job. I think with a little bit of practice, you're not that far away from finding yourself something.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the feedback. Yeah, I see that myself. Yeah, I'm losing my because of my nervous, because I'm not able to fully listen and absorb everything. Yeah, thanks for the feedback.
So that's half of it. The half of it is remembering when you're a problem solver and you're an architect, what you have in your head is really important. Remember, it's not just I passed the certification exam in 10 hours. You've got knowledge. You can solve customer business problems. You can save customers billions of dollars. That's in your head. That's the knowledge of the architect. Have confidence in that. The customer will see it. Great job. Evo, nice job.
Yeah, great job. There was a point that I got to find the comment. There was somebody who made a good point about the repeating of the question. Obviously, it confirms that you heard what they said, but it also allows you time to gather your thoughts for just a few seconds, which came across, especially with you, Amaran, that you were able, it gave you that little bit of time to gather your thoughts, and it serves multiple purposes to repeat back the question. So
it does, and since Chris mentioned that, Chris is my chief operating officer and a great executive. For those that you don't know, when I say make a point and pause, that pause also enables you to collect your thoughts. So when you repeat it back, you bought yourself a couple of seconds to think it. But also, when you make your point and pause, make a point and pause, the answer is well. And like Kenya Carl saw, the likability factor is huge.
Your energy and your confidence. I'm sure you couldn't see the comments as they were coming in, Amaranth, but everybody noticed your energy and your confidence. And I know that's something that you were worried about, but everybody saw that you had good energy and that you were confident. So that was.
Thank you. Because for me, I'm nervous because I don't know the whole world. I'm depending on Mike, Chris. Tell me about the outside world. What is the job look like? Because I'm not sure. I'm looking at my eyes and see, okay, am I doing it okay or not? So you guys are the one telling me. Okay, thank you.
You did great, and practice it again.
Yeah.
Practice an interview, and I used to use stuffed animals because I could put them throughout the room and they make me smile. But whatever it is, now I use my cat Cindy. I just put her some places, and anyway, my cat Cindy is part of everything. Yeah. But great job, seriously, right. Very happy.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, lots of good feedback here. All right, thank you, Amaranth.
Thank you, Amaranth.
So
great.
The next one is going to be Jay. So give me just a second to get Jay in here.
Awesome.
And so all right, Jay, I've got you up.
Hi everyone, how are you?
Hi Jay, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you for asking. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you very well.
Perfect.
So Jay, thank you so much for coming to interview with me today. It's a real honor to have you here. I've heard exceptionally good things about you from the recruiter. So could you tell me a little about yourself?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time out to interview me. I really appreciate the opportunity. I will tell you a little bit about myself now. So I am a technology professional with strong interpersonal, problem solving, and leadership skills, accompanied by 9+ years of experience in the information technology and services industry. I'm skilled in designing solutions for the customers and delivering results. I started my career in sales during college, where I honed my interpersonal skills by speaking with people, customers on the front side of things, and grew into a managerial role. Technology always excited me, and I was curious to learn how everything worked. So after graduating, I started to focus on my technology career. I spent a lot of time outside of work hours to learn the skills needed to help me gain the industry relevance experience and do well in my career. I started, working with different devices like PCs, printers, IP phones, and other devices. To grow further in my career, I started working with the new company as an IT operations lead. In that role, I had a chance to supervise and train junior members and also lead technology projects that were completed on time and within the budget. Now, within that role, I discovered about the cloud, and I was very curious to learn about cloud technology. So my eagerness drove me to take on a course on a platform called udemy.com and create a free AWS account so I can teach myself the practical skills. I did many labs and completed the course to gain practical experience and pass my AWS certification. This led me to land a role at my current job as a multi-cloud engineer. In this position, I am responsible for provisioning and billing of cloud accounts, as well as consulting and supporting customers who utilize the cloud for their workloads. I run POCs whenever needed and guide the customer to the best solutions. I'm highly motivated and driven to excel, and I believe I can make a great addition to your team.
Okay, Jay. Thank you. So okay, what is an AWS AMI and what are the things that it includes?
Definitely. So AWS refers to an AMI as the Amazon Machine Image. So these images are actually used when you're first creating a virtual machine on their AWS cloud platform. You will use one of the Amazon Machine images provided by AWS to create your machine. So it would include an OS and supporting components, so you can run your virtual machine in AWS. You can also create AMI snapshots from your servers that are already running, so you can back them up and use them for recovery in the future.
Okay, good. So why would an organization want to use autoscaling?
Oh, great question. This is one of the most important things about the cloud, and I will definitely love to share this with you. Autoscaling is one of the great features that provides organization to scale and become agile, right? So when you have your web application on the cloud and you're running, let's say, 10 servers, and you have user traffic that's going to increase in the future, you can set autoscaling groups, and you can include those servers in your autoscaling group to automatically scale according to the traffic that you're receiving on your website. And then to save money, you can basically autoscale down to the minimum required servers. This way, you're not running resources when they're not needed. This lets you, increase performance of your website or applications, and it can save money when they're not running on an extra usage, compared to on-premise, where you'll have to think about this ahead of time and order all the servers, and you won't be able to autoscale at the rate that you're getting the traffic in.
Okay, kind of liking that. So when would you use a NoSQL database versus a relational database?
Great question, Mike. Database is one of the things that I was interested in and I wanted to learn more. So I definitely looked at this in the past. So a relational database and a NoSQL database. So the difference between the relational database and a NoSQL database is that one is a structured database and one is a non-structured or partially structured database. So when I say structured, in a SQL database or relational database, you will have to have an idea of what kind of data you're putting on the database ahead of time. So, in a relational database, there are tables that create relations between each other. So if you had a user base or number of users in your company, you will have to associate them with the department, the type of work they do, what kind of tasks they're doing. So you'll have relations in those tables when you're storing that. Or the transactional type of data, right? So in contrast, in a NoSQL database, you will use that database for unstructured or partially structured data that's coming in, which is not really planned ahead of time because it stores it in a key and document setting. This way, it can scale better. So this is the main difference in scalability. And on the SQL side, which is the relational database, right? You'll have to have something planned, but you can always put in other services in place to make sure they scale as well, like read replicas or caching. So these can definitely help with performance.
Okay, so Jawad, actually, let me give you one more because I'm going to dissect this. There were some things, 99% of this, that you did so exceptionally well, and then there's one thing that we really need to fix. We're going to ask you a behavioral question. Tell me about your proudest professional accomplishment.
Oh, yes. There are actually a few. I would actually approach this question in a holistic way, or you could say a high level way, because my proudest accomplishment is, me growing, from where I was after graduating college, getting a business degree, and then coming into the technology world and learning so many things, and with the desire and the drive to grow. And I started with the desktop support, then I grew into IT operations, then I grew into cloud. And one of the proudest accomplishment I can think of when I started my cloud career is when, the place I work at, we had a challenge where we had to basically retain a lot of the students that were in the university. And this was a project that needed to be done in a very timely and tight timeline, within 2 weeks. And I got to work right away because every challenge I faced head on. I started researching the products that were going to actually provide that solution for the customer. I came up to AppStream, which was able to stream the applications needed to actually deliver the content to the users. And then I ran POCs with the customers. And once they were successful, I was able to drive it into production within the 2-week timeline. And that was my proudest accomplishment because it was a very tight timeline, but I was able to get in there, spend extra hours of my own time to learn it to make sure I can deliver.
Excellent. So, couple of thoughts. If you had if you had any transformation about that in the end, like you got this application, you worked really hard, and it saved the customer a certain amount of money, or it increased the customer's uptime, or you increased availability, that would make it much more powerful.
Okay.
So
yeah.
So Jay, so let's go through this. The technical answers you gave me, Jay, were exceptionally good, and they would all get you hired. The only thing that I didn't like was the tell me about yourself, which is the kickoff. When I asked you to tell me about yourself, here's what happened. It felt too rehearsed. Now, I know you've got to have this. It felt like you wrote it up, and it felt like you were reading it. And it felt very long-winded. So if you had just something like, I'm Jay, I've been working in tech for 10 years. During this time, I had the opportunity to work in banking, leadership, and whatever. You're highly motivated, highly energetic, highly enthusiastic, and you love solving customer problems with technology. Something like that would have been shorter and to the point. The rest of it was exceptionally good.
Thank you very much for your feedback. I think I did write this for one of the assignments, and I rehearsed it many times, but I totally understand what you're saying, and I will work on that to make it more natural. Thank you.
That's the thing. And when you present things, and I remember one of my executive coaches a long time ago, and I remember I had a presentation. I was going to be on Cisco Systems Engineering TV, and I was going to be presenting to the entire Cisco technical team, which probably had 40,000 people in it. And I was a little scared because I was like in my 20s, and I'm going to go present to a 20,000 plus engineer audience. And I had an executive coach, and I practiced this again and again and again. And then I got in front of my executive coach and gave the presentation, and she was like, "Oh, no. And I'm like, "What's the matter?" And she said, "This is word for," she had me do it 3 times, and each time it was word for word identical. And she said, "Mike, here's the thing. It needs to feel free. It needs to flow." She said, "So remove your slides, get rid of half of the text, do it more extemporaneously." So, Jay, really, really good job here. Very, very good job. You go on an interview and do that, you will get hired. You definitely will. Now, the difference between doing what I'm describing and this is the difference, not only getting hired, because you're going to get hired, but it can make a 30% difference in your pay, and it can affect the type of job that you actually get. I want you to get the best ones. So I'm always going to push you to be better, but that was an exceptionally good job. You did great. I mean, really, really great. Good job.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Mike. I love your feedback, and I will work on it. Thank you.
Really great job. But, for me, I got to make it a bit better.
Yeah, that was great. That was great. Got to get all these comments up here about how great you did, Jay.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Everybody's support is amazing.
Look, you know what I love so much? It's right now, we've got people from all over the world. I'm looking at some of these names, and I know some of the countries and continents you're in. Everybody's here working hard to help each other have better careers so they can take better care of their families and promote better lives and better and better, and the world can do better. I can't think of anything better than having so many of you wonderful people out here supporting each other. And that's why I love doing these things. So Jay, excellent. I mean, excellent, just excellent, excellent, excellent. Super excited to
this response was my favorite because there's a fine line here where Kenya Carl says he is selling himself without sounding cocky, and that's a very fine line to do, because if you come off too much, that's a turnoff to hiring managers, and that's a fine line to draw.
Thank you, Kenya.
You're selling yourself really well without making it sound too grandiose and too much bravado.
Exactly. And there's going to be a fine line for everyone. It was so natural. And that's why, because it was so natural, I just want the natural you to come out all the time. Because when it does, it's magical.
Thank you so much, Mike and Chris. I appreciate everyone else as well. I love the support. This was pushed me to do better. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Chris, let me just address one thing that Akwo brought up, because Akwo is super smart. I know Akwo. He's a great network architect and a great cloud architect. When it comes to persuasion and exercising influence, there's no person that's done more research than Robert Cialdini. And Robert Cialdini has a lot of books when it comes to exercising influence and persuasion. And whether you're at Stanford University or whether you're at Cisco or whether you're at any of the big tech companies through the world, every leadership program for the most part works on Robert Cialdini's work. Robert Cialdini did a tremendous amount of work studying what happens when basically you repeat back a question to someone, and the customer success and the customer appreciation was so high. They did a study of people that serve food. And when the person said, I'd like a hamburger, fries, and a Coke, when the waiter or waitress would say, okay, I want to make sure that I got this right. You said you'd like a hamburger, fries, and a Coke. Hold the bun, make the hamburger medium well, change the fries for broccoli, and oh, by the way, don't give me the soda, give me water instead. Being able to do something like that actually increased the tips that the food servers are receiving by 30, 40, or 50%. So there's a lot of good data to talk about the reasons why to repeat things back to people, and it's been very studied. But also, it gives you a chance to actually think, and anytime you can buy yourself a couple of seconds, the brain can do some incredible things in a couple of seconds if you're calm enough. So Chris, we've got some really wonderful, amazing people. If you guys are having a good time, if you can type #CloudHired, hit the like button, invite some friends to join us. We always love having a party, and the bigger the party, the better. So Chris, you want to bring in the next person? Adam Say, could you address more on how we should not sound rehearsed? Isn't rehearsing going to make you sound more prepared and better? Adam Say, the answer is yes. You want to rehearse, but it can't be too rehearsed. So, for example, when the police interrogate someone, if it sounds too perfect, it makes them nervous. So the answer is practice it, practice it, practice it. Why did I pick it out on Jawad, Adam? It sounded like he was reading something. So the key is, Adam, if you say, I'm Mike, I've worked at Cisco for a decade, I've been in technology for 25 years. And again, it sounds like, hi, I'm Mike, I worked at Cisco, I've been in tech for 25 years. It's too similar. If instead it just sounded more natural. If Jay talked about, I've been working in cloud for 5 years. And prior to that, I spent a decade here. It wouldn't sound rehearsed. It was just too perfect, and there was no variation of the vocal tone, and there was no dramatic pauses in between things, and that's what made it sound rehearsed. So could Jay have had it on a teleprompter, had lots of practice like an actor or an actress, reading from a teleprompter and not having it feel rehearsed? Absolutely. In fact, when I'd be on TV at Cisco and they'd have us on TV and they'd have us use a prompter, I practiced with the prompter. I learned how to read and make it sound not rehearsed, but it just has to feel not rehearsed. And that's based upon the timing of the words, the tempo of the words. It can't sound too consistent. It can't sound like there's a cadence, word, 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 word. No variation of vocal tone. That's when it sounds too rehearsed. And I think Chris is trying to add something, but he's muted.
Yeah, it's all about the inflection, making sure that it's natural and it's not staccato, just do. So that's And the sad thing is, it's going to take rehearsing to make sure that you're not sounding rehearsed. You're going to have to rehearse not sounding rehearsed to get it right. And
that is an excellent point. You're going to have to practice not sounding like you practiced.
Right, exactly. So that it's just it becomes natural, and you learn. But over the course of time, you'll get used to it, and you'll reflexively be answering things instead of thinking too much, especially on the tell me about yourself. Because if you think too much, that's when you start to sound rehearsed.
Exactly.
So, all right. So we'll bring the next guy in. We'll swap this Chris out with another Chris. So Chris Constantino is next.
That's a very cool name. Well, where my family's from in Greece, everybody's got a name like Costa or Costantino.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Are you from Greece in any way, Chris or Costa?
Everybody takes me in. Greeks, Italians, all types of nationalities. I consider myself an American. My dad's Filipino, my mom's German, so I'm a mix.
Oh, very cool. We're all from somewhere. It's just I just find it interesting where we're from. Americans ask, what do you do? And Europeans ask, where are you from? So since my whole family's from Greece, or most of my family's from Greece, or half of it, I should say, I always ask people where they're from because I find it fascinating. So Chris, welcome and thank you. Thank you for taking time to come in with us today. Let me tell you a little bit about our company. We are growing fast, fast, fast. I can't hire cloud architects fast enough. This year, my team deployed $20 billion of cloud solutions, and I need cloud architects fast. If you're part of my team, you will be working really, really hard. I can pay anything to my cloud architects, but my cloud architects work really, really hard. Going to let you know about our customers. They're highly demanding. They expect our architects to work really, really hard. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Chris.
So I bring over 20 years experience. I studied computer science in college, was very interested in being a software developer and writing that killer application. I joined a software startup. I started out doing quality assurance testing and hotline support for customers. I learned those products really well. And through my expertise, I helped the vice president of professional services who ran into a critical problem with a proof of concept that he was demonstrating to a potential customer. In helping him solve that problem and enabling that proof of concept to be successful, I was able to take a position traveling as a consultant in his organization. That was my beginning of traveling as a technical consultant for software companies all over the US, doing solutions for engineering companies, manufacturing companies, healthcare companies. Got exposed to a variety of types of businesses and types of solutions. I have very strong expertise with the Java programming language. The Java stack was primarily used with those companies. But as my career progressed to team lead and architect levels, I became very interested in working with customers to define the upfront requirements for their solutions and map those to the technology solutions. So the last 7 years, I've been working as a technical business analyst that progressed into in my most recent role was an integration project manager for Route 1. I've learned to structure projects and structure agile sprints in a way that deliver business value to customers faster. Gives them a great ROI. Because I have a development background, I speak the language of developers. I understand what they need, and I can help customers get there faster, quicker.
Okay, started off so strong. Still a very good technical answer. We'll talk about a few things, but by the way, very strong. So what's the difference between IOPS and throughput?
IOPS and throughput. So IOPS has to do with the number of operations per second that a device has. So a hard drive, for example, may support a certain number of reads or writes per second. Throughput, to me, from an application standpoint, isn't just that single device, but also including the network and all of the other things that are related to the performance of your application.
Okay, as it pertains to storage, what's the difference between IOPS and throughput?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, fair, totally fair. You've got 2 virtual firewalls. You need a high security environment. You're going to use 2 firewalls. How do you make that work in a cloud?
So you would have 2 virtual firewalls. What is each firewall protecting?
You've got 2 great questions. You've got a web app and you want to put it behind a firewall. You don't want to use something like WAF because you want to use a real firewall for industrial grade security. But you can't just use one firewall because the firewall fell. You're going to use 2 of them on 2 virtual machines from the marketplace. What do you need to do to make sure both firewalls get used? What kind of device would be used to do that?
The redundancy so the 2 firewalls are used for redundancy purposes. Is that?
Yeah. And in a data center, obviously, they have a heartbeat between them. They can do their own health checks, but you can't do that in the cloud. You've got to run them on EC2 instances. So how would you load share across 2 firewalls for availability and performance?
You could use something like a load balancer. The load balancer would check for the heartbeat of each firewall, make sure that it was available before it sent traffic that way. Obviously, once you completed the setup, you're going to want to test it, make sure that each firewall behaves in the way that it's expected to when the other one is down. You would need some way to synchronize the firewall rules between the 2 to ensure that those are, when you make a change on one, that the same change takes effect on the other.
Good, real good. Because that's exactly what you'd use. You'd use a network load balancer or a gateway load balancer to do something like that. So excellent. You've got a customer that wants to use a NoSQL database in a multi-cloud environment. What are your best options to be able to use AWS, Azure, and Google all at the same time? How could you do it?
So you want each of those separate cloud-based applications to be able to access the same NoSQL database?
Exactly. I want a NoSQL database that I can have running in my data center, AWS, Azure, and Google, and I want them all synchronized at the same time without having to worry about code deployments, code changes. I just want it to work because I want super high performance, high availability. How could I do that?
Well, to enable super high performance and availability, you're going to want to use AWS Direct Connect. Make sure that the network is running at the highest speed possible between those cloud environments and the database that's in your data center.
Okay, so what about the other clouds? Do we connect the clouds to the clouds, or are we connecting my data center to all 3 clouds? We can use, it's up to you. And what kind of databases could we choose from?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, and that's fair. What I was looking for is to know that you can't use a DynamoDB or a Google Cloud Bigtable because you're dealing with a multi-cloud environment. So you're going to have to choose from your list of NoSQL databases that are going to be usable, such as Apache Cassandra or MongoDB. So that's kind of more that industry knowledge. All these cloud native services, they're beautiful on one cloud, but there's no such thing as one cloud now. So, you're not going to be using DynamoDB, you're going to be using MongoDB, or you're going to be using Apache Cassandra based upon whether your traffic is read-oriented or predominantly write. That determines which one you actually use. So let's give you one more technical question here. And okay, let's say this. Let's say I've got 20 servers that each have 120 cores or 4 terabytes of DRAM as web servers. What type of load balancer am I going to use for these 20 servers that each have 128 cores and 4 terabytes of DRAM, and why?
Okay, so each has 128 cores and 128 gigabytes of DRAM.
4 terabytes of DRAM.
4 terabytes.
And an NVMe RAID array of 8 times 8 terabyte SSD drives and NVMe drives, which provides approximately 4 million IOPS and 35,000 megabit per second throughput.
Okay. I think you use an elastic load balancer, which will adjust to each of those devices, scale up and scale down as necessary to handle the traffic coming into your network.
Okay, so when it comes to load balancers, we really have two options. Let's strip away names like Elastic. We've got application load balancers and network load balancers. And they're the same load balancers that we have on Google, Azure, Oracle, Dell, Cisco, Palo Alto. Are we using a network load balancer or an application load balancer? And why?
The application load balancer would give you more options, I think, depending on the application that you're running.
Okay. So we're going to dissect this. So we have to use a network load balancer because an application load balancer is slow. It's intelligent but slow. So when we're routing between microservices, for example, we would use an application load balancer. But we're going to route between servers that have 120 cores and 4 terabytes of DRAM. We need something big. So we're going to be using a lot of network load balancers for that. So for the speed and performance, let's walk through this. Let's dissect this because there were some things that worked really well. So you were the first person, because you're technically solid, that I wanted to see if you were going to adapt to the environment. You didn't. I gave you some things in the beginning. I told you how busy we were. I told you how hard our people worked. And I told you that I have an unlimited budget and I can afford to pay anything, but I have a backlog of work. Did you hear that? Did you address that at all?
I didn't. I talked a little bit about my experience working for a startup company, but I didn't directly tie the two together.
To that first question, tell me about yourself. You went in there solid. You told me about your 20 years experience. That's the time where you would kick in, I'm highly energetic, I'm highly motivated, and I'm very hardworking. That manager, it's in his head. He has to hear that you're hardworking. Shove it. He just told you he wants to hear it 6 times. I've been working in tech for 20 years. I'm highly energetic, I'm highly enthusiastic, I'm highly motivated, and I work hard to delight my customers. Now, that was in there. You started going down the Java path and an application and a software path. This is cloud architecture. There is no coding. So don't talk about your irrelevant skills, your Java development or your coding. Talk about your relevant skills, which is your architectural design skills. So look, if you were going to apply to be an application architect, all that's great, but you want to be a cloud architect, and a cloud architect designs the servers, the network, the storage, the overall end-to-end, and not the application. So don't talk about your software development unless you're applying for an application. Talk more about how you can solve customer problems. So that part. Now, once I started getting into the tech stuff, you did very solid. You were real solid. So again, coming from an application perspective, all the application people always think of as application load balancers. Network people like me automatically think network load balancers. So you're going to be biased there. I'm going to be biased at the network. So the next thing that you should look at when it comes to these things is look at the capacity. Realize network load balancers, for example, are much faster than application load balancers. Now the question is why? A network load balancer is not too smart. Source, destination, IP address, protocol, and port number, not much. Application load balancer, it's looking deeply into the header. It's looking for a lot of information, so it's got to do a lot more work. If you ask me to do 2 + 2 all day long, I'm going to be pretty quick. If you ask me to do calculus in my head, the numbers are going to be much slower. I'm probably never going to be able to answer it because I'm not Mr. Math. My cat's probably better at calculus than I am. But the point is, I want you to get it out. So listen to what the person's telling you. Now, for the next person, we're going to do some body language work too. But you have an extremely good tech background. Extremely. Highlight that. Listen a little more, give a little bit of feedback. Now, the way you answer those questions was great. The tech questions that you don't know, sorry, I've not had the opportunity to learn that yet. But I'm highly energetic, I'm highly motivated. I know what I know and I know what I don't know, and I can find the answer to things that I don't know very quickly. But I need to be honest with you. But I know a lot about relational databases, BGP, OSPF, I don't care. Something that's going to guide me, the interviewer, to ask you about what you know about. I don't want your interview to chance. You tell me what you know. I hear what you know. And because you tell me what you know and I hear what you know, I give you what you need and you do really, really well. So you actually did quite good, Chris. I just want you to be better. But you did really good. So adaptiveness, watch what's going on, listen to what people tell you, and realistically speaking, you'll be in a very good place. So that's where I was kind of going, but great job. Seriously, great
Thank you,
job.
Mike.
Terrific job.
Awesome job.
Yeah, really
I'm glad
good.
that I'm glad that Chris had to do that and not me.
Yeah, honestly, that Chris did a really good job. You, Chris Johnson. So Chris Tino, really great job. Let's give some clap. Let's give some cloud hires. I think Chris is going to be getting his job relatively soon. So straightforward, to the point. Great job.
Daniel picked up on something here. It was, and it goes back to inflection, like I was talking about before. And Chris had a definite. He had a definition to his answer. Like there was a end to it. There was a Christmas to it.
There sure was. There was a Chris, and it was definitive.
And Evo with the straightforward responses there, it goes in line with that definition, that point to the end. So get these.
Really, really, really solid. Yeah. So I really like what you did there, Chris. You know, it was straight. It was to the point. So the data from Harvard is as follows. When we communicate, 55% of our communication is what we look like when we say something. 38% is what you sound like. And 7% is actually what you say. So 93% of our communication is nonverbal, meaning vocal inflection, our posture, our clothes, the tonal quality of our voice, our gestures. So 93%, kind of scary if you think about it. Only 7% is our actual content.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Chris, for taking part. And we'll bring the next person in. The next person is going to be Avita. Let me find her here. And let's see. Here we go. We've got Avita up. I think she's with us.
Hello, Avita.
Hi.
Hi, Avita. How are you today? How are you, Avita? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. And yourself?
I'm doing so great. Thank you so much for asking.
I'm so happy that you're here with us today. We are a rapidly growing firm. You know, we started as a cloud consulting company approximately 3 years ago. And, you know, we grew steadily. And then with the pandemic, people have just come to us. And literally speaking, we've been consulting with literally 300 clients a week. And we just don't have enough staff. So we need people that can hit the ground running, people that are really competent. I don't care so much about somebody's experience, but I need competent people and I need them yesterday. So I'm hoping you're one of those people. But what I'm really concerned about are people's attitudes. See, I want to hire adults. I want to hire people that are good. I want to hire people that are motivated. I want to hire people that I can basically say, I need this done, and the people will go and do it. And I need people that are so good and strong and capable and independent that all I'm going to hear from is, Mike, it's done, the customer is satisfied, or Mike, I need some help. I need some resources. That's what I need because I don't have the time to supervise a lot of people, Avita. So I'm very, very, very grateful to have you here today. So tell me about yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, congratulations to the progressive success of your company, 3 years running and ongoing. I absolutely look forward to being an asset to the team. I have experience with implementing customer best practices as it relates to creating solutions that increase the satisfaction of our customers and consumers. As a lead nationally certified pharmacy technician, I actually served as a leader in the medical industry. And what that showed me transferring into the world of technology is that I have transferable skills that will enable myself to serve as a leader to ensure that not only myself, but my team members are able to hit the ground running with the projects that we have on board to ensure that they get completed to their most efficiency and, of course, as quickly as possible.
Great. How are you with working with teams?
That's a great question. So, as far as myself and how I work with teams, the core value that I hold is being a motivational and encouraging leader. Leadership is a vital part to the organization and to essentially serving as the glue that holds us together, that holds our productivity, and that ensures that it's increased, that holds our engagement, and that ensures that we have continuous and effective engagement within our team as well as excuse me, our consumers. So as a leader, I love leading my team with motivation and encouragement. As you said, being an asset to this team, we will be 3 years in and with the influx of our demand, I'm sure that we have team members that might feel stretched and that might feel stressed. And so, for me as a leader, it's super important that I bring that high energy and that high encouragement to ultimately bring out those talents, those hidden talents from our team members through passion as well as through engagement. Engagement is one of the biggest priorities that I have on my priority list as it relates to leadership. And so it's important for me to not only have check ins with my team members. Hey, what's going on with this project? How do you feel about it? How do you feel about your progress with it? It's my job and my privilege to ensure that I implement the most efficient project management to ensure that we meet and exceed deadlines that are established. But the other side of that, being a leader, is ensuring that my team members are all on one accord and all on the same page so that we can get to that goal that much sooner. And with that, I found in my experience as a leader in the medical industry, in transferring those skills to the tech industry, I found that encouragement and motivation are two huge catalysts that enable us to be able to upkeep the workflow efficiency and productivity, as well as engagement with our team. That then, of course, leads us to accomplishing our set goals within the appropriate deadlines and more than often actually exceeding that, and actually getting those projects done even before the deadlines.
Okay. Could you tell me about a time that you had to work closely with someone whose personality was very different than yours?
Absolutely. So in my experience, the essence of customer satisfaction is rooted in customer engagement. And there was an occasion where one of my team members, their personality was more so focused on the robotics, so to speak, as far as our computer systems and knocking out the task that as it relates to our hands-on computer systems. However, I realized that it is very important for us to have that element in our personalities as it relates to our passion and dedication to increase engagement. And so I realized that the differences between my personality and my team members' personality is that they were more comfortable kind of staying behind a computer in their own zone, in their own world, checking off the to do list and to do boxes. However, my personality also held those components, but it was of utmost importance to me to maintain that communication and engagement, especially as it relates to our customers. So we actually did come across a situation where the customer was unsatisfied because said team member wasn't really attuned to hearing what the customer was complaining about. The team member was just more so focused on, well, if the boxes are checked, I did my job. What are you complaining about? Because the job is done. But what I was able to bring and rectify in that circumstance was the emotional intelligence to hear the customer and listen to what solution that I could provide with the emotional intelligence that allowed me to be more in tune with what the actual issue was. And so, in resolving said issue between the team member and the customer after my intervention, I got a chance to speak to my team member as a leader and let them know, hey, let's use this opportunity and the circumstance as an opportunity to reflect on and learn from. And so that's just another example on how I got to have multiple experiences that showed me the true power in that motivation, that encouragement, rooted in engagement that increased our customer satisfaction, that increased our customers' trust in us, for them to feel like they are our priority. And as a leader, I was also able to use that as a learning moment, not only for myself, but for my team on how we can handle said situations in a better way in the future.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you one last one. Now, I want you to, Avita, I want you to read me. I want you to watch my body language, and then we'll give you some feedback. So tell me about your strengths and weaknesses.
Absolutely. So, one of my weaknesses that I realized on my journey of being a leader is that my personality is very aligned with doing my best to go out of my way to assist and to provide extra help to those in need and to those who request. Upon this journey, however, I realized that it turned into a weakness yet to be identified because the assistance and help that I was providing ended up being a crutch to certain team members that were learning in the midst of learning certain processes. And so, as that weakness, I actually realized that, hey, next time around, as it relates to team members requesting my assistance and my help, instead of us working on a project for an hour and a half and me just thinking I'm helping and them intentionally using me as a crutch, I rectified that and I realized that as a leader, I like to approach said circumstances with a clear objective. What is the issue? What is the bridge to the solution? And what will the outcome of that solution be? And to answer your second question, that's also where I was able to highlight a lot of my strengths. I love being able to create and compile organized data that will allow me to establish set objectives that are required to be lined out and accomplish the goals of the team and the goals of my company. I also realize as well that in the organization of that data, I have a keen sense of being able to interpret complex feedback that we receive from said data and then generate creative solutions, generate creative plans to be executed that will eventually increase the productivity, increase the success of our company, and increase the efficiency for us to accomplish the managed projects that I and my team were responsible for. Another strength of mine is that I am extremely passionate on making sure that I do my absolute best to exhaust all resources. If I don't know something, I know how to get to the next person who does, or source out that information through our abundance of internet resources that are dedicated to helping us get to solutions a lot quicker. So I love being able to exhaust our resources. And in that, I find that it absolutely helps us. It helps myself as a leader to get to the end result of said projects that I have the privilege to manage, as well as the efforts and the assistance added from my team, knowing that we have different outlets to exhaust our resources to get to that successful end goal.
What have I been doing for the last 4 minutes, Avita?
You were flipping through your book.
I had my arms crossed. I was answering email. That's why I asked you to watch. Okay, so let's talk about what went right and what went wrong. So, first and foremost, your likability factor is so high that if your answers weren't so long-winded, you probably would have gotten hired right then and there. So your likability factor is huge, huge, huge. So that is your strength. That is your secret weapon. I want you to use that. Now, the answers were so long that the hiring manager has less than a 60-second attention span to get an answer, and your answers went into the 5 and the 10-minute range. And basically speaking, I tried to show you with body language. I tried to cross my arms. I tried to answer my email. I tried to do anything. I finally held a book up, some book that my associate and I were looking at, the Azure Expert, and literally flipped through it to see if you would notice. Now, I need you to be present in whenever you're in these interviews. You need to read the interviewer. If that interview leans in, talk. That interviewer leans back, stop. That interview crosses their arms, they had enough. Close it down or change your topics. That person looks at their desk or an email, you got to wake them up. And so I need you to really, really look. So what I would say is your likability factor is extraordinary. The quality of your voice is exceptionally warm and welcoming. It is amazing. Your attitude is amazing. Now, we got to make the sound come out simpler. Like, I don't know what said anything is. Once you start telling me about said this and said that, it's too complicated. The interviewer is not going to pay attention. So quicker to the point. So if I had asked you about your strengths and weaknesses, and if you would have said, I'm highly motivated, I'm highly energetic, and I'm meticulous, these are my primary strengths. My weakness is that I'm a little bit disorganized, so I have a series of checklists that I use to make sure that I deliver everything on time and on budget. That's an answer. If I asked you to tell me about yourself in the beginning, if you'd said, look, you know what? I've been in the healthcare and technology field for a tremendous amount of time. I've got a tremendous amount of experience in consulting, finding customer requirements and delivering a solution to delight the solution. That is awesome. So the point is you did great. It's a really great start. Great start. And you are super, super, super likable, which again is a great start. So I'm using me as an example here. I'm trying to show you why I want you to just listen. So let's try this one more time, because that likability factor that you have is so strong. And that healthcare background is really, all that consulting you did is so good. So I just want you to simplify it for the people, because the executive, the CEO, basically needs to read at a 6th grade level because they're so busy. They've got a really short attention span. So your likability is so, 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 so awesome. So instead of giving me the highly educated, super educated long answer, I'm going to give you another one. And I just want you to give me a very, very simple, straightforward to the point answer. So now let's go back and ask you that same time. Tell me about a problem you had to work closely with someone whose personality was very different than yours. 60 seconds or less. And I know you can do it because you have some of the most likability I have ever seen in 25 years of interviewing. And that factor, the last person that was as likable as you, I call him Avi. He was an Israeli guy. And I literally hired him with no knowledge of networking whatsoever. Not only did I hire Avi, Avi went off to become the CEO and sell Chromebooks to the developing nations. and he's done so much good for the world. So the point is, your likability factor is that strong, that good. So let's ask this question one more time. The same question I asked you. Tell me about a time you had to work with someone whose personality was different than yours.
Thank you for that question. The time that I worked with somebody and their personality was different from mine was when we had a customer, and this customer's experience was unsatisfactory because my team member differed in that their personality wasn't as engaging. I value engagement and I value the high standard of communication with said customers and consumers. And so that's when I realized that our differences in our personality actually affected the customer satisfaction that resulted with their interaction.
Okay, a lot better. A lot better. Now, if you can even reduce it down a little further, I once worked with this person, and though we were on the same team, philosophically, we were exactly opposite. I like to approach it from a customer perspective. She liked to approach it from a more tactical perspective. I understand both are required for a quality solution, but the tactical approach that was used for the last few times had not delighted the customer. What I did is we had a long discussion. We mapped it out. I showed that we've tried this approach 3 or 4 times. We didn't necessarily get the ideal goals, so I showed her where my method would probably be appropriate. We adopted my method. The method promoted, not only did the method work, the customer satisfaction was increased. The customer ordered 13% more than they normally do because they were so delighted. So great. It was much more succinct to the point. Try it back. If you can, try and tie it back to a positive outcome that shows the transformation. Because all we architects do is we transform technology. This responsive beta was solid. And this was a lot better. It was 500% better than the first one. So you learn really fast too. Real fast.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I also agree from the perspective of feeling like you have to provide an elaborate answer, I guess, to compensate for any gaps that you might feel insecure as the interviewee. I can see how that might have backfired to basically just provide that clarity and as much clarity as possible, and it turned into just extra information that ended up wavering their interest.
Yeah, so, it's a lesson we teach salespeople. Stop it, yeah.
Yep.
The worst thing that I see on an interview or with sales reps is somebody does so good, the hiring manager's like, you know what, I really like you, I'm going to bring you on. And the person babbles for a half an hour until we decide to say, oh, wait, we don't want this person. So give enough. Your likability factor is sky high. That tonal quality of your voice, your personality is so good that it's going to be a big boost to you.
Mike, can I add something?
Please.
To that? Okay. So, I arguably might have interviewed as many people as Mike has, but in different roles over the course of 15 years. The thing to remember is you're in the interview already. You've already got there. Mm-hmm. You're not having to sell anything anymore. Mm-hmm. You've been sold. You're there. So just like Mike said, that it's the same thing that has to be taught to salespeople. If they've got the checkbook out already, you gotta, and you'll get familiar with it. You'll learn when you've got to that point that you don't have to sell anymore. You don't have to talk. Like you said, stop. Know when you've gotten to the yes, and it all goes back to the body language. And not just the body language, the way that they're responding to you and their questions. Their questions may change as the interview is going along. If you start to notice that the nature of the questions are changing, then it's a good sign that you've either lost the interview or you've gotten past the interview. So that's I just wanted to add that to it. But that was a really good. Your likability is just out of the
Correct.
roof. That was I would have hired you for any position that I had in the past 15 years. That was you're like
And that's the thing, when you hear that kind of attitude and that kind of personality, I need this person. So I just want to work with that natural awesomeness and make it a little more executive. And that way, not only do people need you, but they're like, I have to have this person immediately, and I'll do anything to get this person on my team. That's what we're really trying to do.
Yeah. So again, the important thing is to remember you're in the interview already. They wouldn't have brought you into the interview if they didn't think that what they've already seen is enough to do the job.
And that is that thing that Chris highlighted. That is the most essential thing that I need everybody to understand. We hiring managers are so busy. We don't interview people that we don't think we can hire. If you're sitting in that interview seat, it's because we think you can do the job, and it's up to you to prove yes or no at that point. But we're already put you there. We already brought you in because experience was irrelevant to us. If we cared about your experience, I'm not going to bring you in and waste an hour of my time. I brought you in for an interview because I think you can do the job. So convince me you can do the job. You're there. Show me that you've got the skills. Show me that you can delight me, and I will hire you every single time.
That was great. That was great.
Was
Lots of good feedback here in the comments too.
It was exceptionally good.
Thank you. I see everybody in the comments. Thank y'all so much. I appreciate that a lot. And I will definitely take that and meditate on it, because I agree and I'm grateful that I had this opportunity to reflect on that aspect and shift to transform it, to use it to my advantage.
Sounds great. And it's
Awesome.
even awesome. And there's even some people from our crew. One of my friends, Joe, that actually saw you and instantly said you were a star in the making. Joe is a CCIE like me. He was one of our students, still is part of our family, and is now working as a senior cloud architect with one of the main cloud providers. So, if he's reaching out to you saying this, that's a great thing too. So,
all right. Well, thank you again, Avita, and we'll bring the next person in. Let's see. So the next person will be Bob, and let me add him in. All right. There we go.
Hello, everybody. This is Bob Walsh. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Doing great. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. It's beautiful out here today.
Thank you so much for coming here today. From when I looked at your resume, it looks like you have a security background. Is that true?
That is true, Mike. I do.
I want to let you know what we're dealing with. So I lead a team of cloud architects, and we deploy some of the world's largest solutions. And the challenge is now that everybody's going from the data center to the cloud, it feels like the cloud providers have convinced people that they don't have to worry about anything on the regards to security on the cloud. So everybody wants to come to the cloud, and all they think is we're going to use like a WAF and a shield and a couple of access lists, and their systems are going to be secured. And my cloud architects are having a really hard time trying to convince the customers that everything they needed in the data center, they still need here. And then they need some more, because now they're on the cloud, which is a high value target, which means not only can the people get hacked as before, but the cloud gets hacked, and they can hack in multiple ways. Do you have any experience securing the cloud?
Yes, I do, Mike. Cloud is very fascinating to me. It's something that I get to about every day, and I get to teach people about every day, and that excites me alone. But from a security perspective, it's very different from on-prem versus cloud, and the data in motion as well. Understanding where your data is, how you tag your data, how you monitor the data, how you layer the protection from the perimeter, the critical assets that you have, even your endpoints. To me, the endpoints should be a last resort, but you can't teach people not to click on certain emails. You have to work on educating them, but you still are going to get those few people that click on those that may launch a malware with a dropper that infiltrates your network and may take over a server and become a bot. Now, with the right tools in place, the layered approach, if something like that happens, we'll be able to detect that behavior and automatically shut that down to allow your team to focus on more business critical needs and save you some time and money in the event that happens. And it's something that will likely happen, and it's hard to explain to people that, oh, I've got all the tools in the world and I'm protected. There is so many viruses created on a daily basis. You can buy viruses out on the internet and modify them and inject them however you want it, whether it's SQL injection or other things such as a wireless network and becoming man in the middle. So many different ways to protect the cloud and your on-prem devices, and you have to do that in combination.
Absolutely, in combination. So from the perimeter in, at least in terms of devices, such as the kind of things that we would purchase from a Cisco or a Palo Alto, could you walk us through securing our enterprise, let's assume it's on the cloud, from the perimeter and every step along the way?
Sure. From the perimeter, right at the edge, you're going to need a nice next-gen firewall. You're going to be able to stop those bad guys that are known out in the wild. You layer that with a IDS, IPS, and possibly a second firewall as well. You need to be able to monitor activities that are going on, whether it's inbound, outbound, east-west traffic as well. Internal is one of the a lot of the theft comes from internal, but you have to be able to monitor everything, and you have to have the more automation that you can build into it, the more devices that talk to each other and share those hashes that are known bad, allows more speed and agility to react to those type of infiltrations that may happen.
Sure, sounds good. But is there like a list of things that you would use from the outside in? Like I know you mentioned the firewall, the IDS, maybe there's something to protect the subnets, maybe the servers, that kind of thing. Could you walk us through?
Sure. From a subnet standpoint, your critical data may be sitting in a subnet, in a private subnet. So you'll want to be able to put a NAT instance there to be able to separate that access to that NAT instance to where you can have access to be able to provide updates to that database or that critical data through that NAT instance. You're going to have your network ACLs, sorry, I just went blank, excuse me. There's other assets that our providers have, such as built-in DDoS protection. Being able to stop that's a big thing, and really easy for hackers to do is to send DDoS attacks in. And if you're not protected from that, it'll shut you down. You will not be able to use your servers at all.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, while we're at it, you mentioned DDoS. Auto-scaling. Auto-scaling can help with DDoS. Could you describe to us how?
I need to read a little bit more on the capabilities of auto-scaling in the cloud, on how it actually can protect against DDoS attacks. Just a thought. I don't want to guess. You don't want me to guess.
Nope.
And that's not something that I'm going to allow myself to do. So I will have a proper answer for you as soon as possible.
That sounds good. Since we're on the theme of security, what is IPsec?
I know the answer, but I don't know it off the top of my head, the proper.
And that's fair. Let's do a behavioral question. So give me a time where you were not able to meet the client's expectations and what you did about it.
Wow, that's a good question. I remember this very clearly. It was the first time that I was ever walked out of a building with security. I was supplying a solution to IBM in Tokyo, and I had to deliver the message that we would not be able to meet their schedule. I made the mistake of not bowing in shame. That was very offensive to them, and they walked out on me, or they had me escorted out of the building. They were now, within a month, they were my best client. I learned my lesson. I delivered the product on schedule that they agreed to allow me to do, and I flew that product back over to them, and then jumped on a plane and came back home. It was a brutal trip, but very well worth it. And you go above and beyond when it requires. Do what you have to do.
That one. Excellent answer, by the way. Now, there's a 2% tuning to that answer that's going to be your secret weapon we're going to give you. That answer was good. Real good. So, like this. Let's do one more behavioral one. Why should I hire you?
I get to learn new things every day. I get to teach people new things every day. I get to solve complex problems. I love technology. I live technology. I don't turn the TV on very often regarding technology.
Okay, so halfway there. So the fact that you're passionate about technology, that excites me as a hiring manager. So let's walk through a couple of these things. So in the beginning, you started off good. And I asked you how to secure the enterprise from the outside in. Started off with the firewall, with the IDS, IPS systems. My goal would be to hear have you say on the cloud, we use our firewalls, then our IDS, IPS systems, then our network access control list. Then we protect the servers with security groups. Then we protect our systems by disabling unnecessary services, putting on anti-malware protection.
Right.
Adding a host-based firewall. I would have liked a little more there. I know you know the answer because I know you. You definitely know the answers to all of these things.
And as I relax and get comfortable, it just flows out of me.
With regards to IPsec, if you had known, if you could have said IPsec as a suite of protocol that provides encryption, it provides endpoint verification, it provides message integrity checking, and it promotes a means to make sure you have non-repudiation, meaning the sender can't say they didn't see it. That would be fine if you had said it was a technology to create VPNs by creating a secure environment in a public environment. That again would also still be okay. So all of that would be fine. So any of these things are good. So I liked that. I liked the way you answered it. If you didn't have a solid answer, you didn't mislead me. And again, you were completely horrible. Now, I asked you the question about when you didn't satisfy a customer. That was amazing. Now, perfect answer. If you had said that same thing and said, look, it was about 20 years ago, I'm kind of embarrassed about it. I was serving a client in Japan. We didn't deliver. I didn't know to bow in shame. So I was escorted out of the building. When I got home, it hit me very hard that I needed to know the importance of being culturally relative. So I went back to my hotel. I learned all about culture. I went in there and I went back to that customer the next day, armed with knowledge of the customer. I went to that customer every day for 38 days, delighted that customer, and that became the company's best customer. That answer you had was so solid. If you can hit the need to learning to being culturally relative, that would take that from an answer that's a 9 out of 10 to a 50 out of 10.
I was embarrassed. It was so awkward.
I'm sure you were, and I've been there too. We've all found ourselves. I tried to bring a checkpoint firewall into Dubai. The room went quiet, and I almost got sent to prison because you can't bring an Israeli product into Dubai. And I didn't even think of checkpoint being an Israeli product. But the point is it's very easy to do. Now, I was young then. It was 20 some years ago. Right. I now know when I'm in an Arabic country not to bring an Israeli product. Likewise, if I was going to do something in Israel, I probably wouldn't bring something from an Arabic country. Do I love going to Arabic countries? I sure do. They're the most fun places in the world. Do I go to Israel too? And do I go to Greece? And do I go to Turkey? Sure. I don't really care. There's great people everywhere.
Absolutely.
But being culturally relative does matter. Great people everywhere. So, having said that, that would be the thing that makes that a bigger win for you. But that was still very solid, Bob. But again, you knew what you knew. You didn't know. You knew what you didn't know. You didn't mislead anybody. It was likable. It was definitive, and it was solid. Good job.
And I have IPsec written down on a piece of paper, and I'm going to bury myself in it.
And I know you will. You're going to be going home, or you're home. You're going to be learning about GRE tunnels, IPsec, and VPNs. And you know what? That's going to enhance your security and your cloud architect portfolio. I'm sure of it. And it's great. But that's what we all do. I learn something every single day. Literally speaking, there's not a day that goes by where I don't learn. My wife teaches me. My students teach me. My cat teaches me. Every day I learn something.
Yep. That's what I love about it. It's exciting.
It is. That's what's so much fun about tech. We will always, always, always learn. There is so much to learn. You were very natural and authentic, Bob. It came across very strong.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was great. That was another great example. That you scared me with the way you started off that behavioral question. I'm like, oh, let's not talk about getting escort off property.
You started with that one. I was like, oh, okay.
But then you came in with the save. But the way that Mike rephrased it was, don't start off too scary.
Yeah. It's a shocker, but sometimes you need that to get attention too.
Yeah. Yeah, if you got the interviewee that's like this, start off with the I got escorted off. But
I've got a job by having the right picture on the wall behind me.
You know what? I got to tell you, in life, there are customers that won't be satisfied. One time, 20-some years ago, I was part of a company that did a 30% layoff, and they had a customer that bought something that never worked. They flew me in to this customer to go fix it. I was at that customer site, literally speaking, within an hour. I had all their IP multicast video things that hadn't worked for years. I proceeded to go to lunch. The person that was there erased every one of the configurations that I put on every one of those routers and video encoders and everything that had been set up. I come back from lunch. I've got a shotgun pointing at me. You're here and nothing works. I disarmed the person from the shotgun. Thankfully, I'm a Krav Maga expert and a martial arts expert. And I remember saying, now, can we go fix your issue so we can get done this? And what was clear is they had a person that was so unhappy that I came in for an hour and fixed something that they'd been working on for 3 months that had an outage every day, that I went to lunch and they sabotaged it. So the point is, no matter how hard you work, no matter how emotionally intelligent, you're still going to have one run in. Now, I left that customer very satisfied that day because things worked. The person that was there no longer worked there, and nobody pointed a gun at me since then. But the point was, these things just happen.
All right.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. And you have to stick your head out there and make the mistakes to get better.
Exactly. So thank you for coming on. No preparation. Had no idea what this was even going to be on, and you did great. Awesome.
Yep. Thank you, Bob. That was great. All right. So the next person we have is from the YouTube community. We've got Morrow. And let me add Morrow in. And then we got one more person after Morrow. So we'll get. All right, Morrow, are you there?
Hey guys, how are you?
Good. And if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, I'm sorry. Just correct us.
It's fine. It's fine. Mauro.
Okay.
Morrow, where are you, by the way?
I'm in Quito, Ecuador.
You're where?
In Quito.
Ecuador?
Quito, Ecuador.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. So thank you so much for coming on. Thrilled to have you participate. Before I begin, since I don't know you, what's your background?
I'm a developer, basically a Java developer, Golang, backend most of the time. But I want to move to the cloud thing, architecture roles, and this kind of things, AWS. Yeah, that's my background, basically.
Okay. So good. So we're going to start like everyone else. Tell me about yourself.
My name is Mauro. I'm from Quito, Ecuador, South America. I was a developer for like 20 years. I started with very old versions of Oracle Java. I mean, the initial versions of this language, the Java as a language, and very initial versions of Oracle. Yeah, most of the time I was creating application, enterprise application, mobiles. Now with the cloud thing, I am trying to move to understand how the cloud works. I'm trying to go deeper and try to work on cloud things, creating applications at a bigger scale, and this kind of role, basically. But yeah, that's my background and a little of my summary.
Sounds great. It sounds like you've been in tech a really long time. I love to hear that. Could you tell me the difference between block storage and object storage, what they are, how they work, and why an organization would choose to use each one?
Yeah, well, block storage is basically how the objects or how the files are stored in a server. There are some types. Basically, in object storage is more easy to store bigger files instead of a block.
Okay. Sounds good. What maps an IP address to a domain name?
A DNS.
Okay, great. If you're there in Ecuador, if I want you to go to a website by an IP address and I want you to get a Spanish web page instead of an English website, and I'm in the US, what kind of DNS could I use to basically pick up your source IP address and send you a Spanish web page?
Actually, I don't know. I understand there is some configuration about the language, but I don't know if there is a DNS in specific for this.
Okay. We'll ultimately give you the answers in the end, but that's totally fine. Could you tell me the difference between a virtual machine and a container?
Well, a virtual machine allows emulate a computer, installing operative system and all the things required. But a container is a very small unit which is running under other operative systems. And the best thing of container is you can have a lot of containers in the same machine, and every container runs as a process instead of virtual machines, which runs as an entire application. And it's easier to have a lot of containers in a machine instead of a virtual machine, because you have more resources for containers instead of a virtual machine.
Why?
Because every container runs as a process, and the virtual machine consumes more resources like memory and processors.
So which one has more power?
I believe in a container, with containers you can have a lot of containers running at the same time. But with a virtual machine, you can have only one single virtual machine or multiple machines, but you can have a lot of memory and a lot of memory and resources for each of them.
Okay, so and we're going to get to all of these. So I've got 3 VPCs, and I want them to talk to each other. What are the ways that I can do it if I want them all to be able to talk to each other?
You can have a private gateway, and that way you can have softnets, and with that you can. I don't remember exactly the component, but I guess a virtual private gateway, which allows communication between every VPC.
Okay, and we're going to give you one more. I want to get one for you. What's a content delivery network?
is like machines stored in different parts of the of a geographical location, which allow make a cache for some resources that make easier and faster to deliver HTML page. I mean, every resource faster to the client.
How does it make it faster?
Because are closer to the destination.
Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you one more behavioral question. We're going to walk through the answers to each of these questions, and then I'm going to tell you how to answer them better for when it's an actual interview. I do this for myself. I'm doing it for some of my students that are there. You're doing great. I just want to make sure that you're taking part, and we're so grateful. And I want to give you some value so that you can win on your next interview. So let's give you one more. Let's give you a behavioral question, because a lot of these things kind of come up. So let's see what would be pretty good for you. Tell me about, what you do when you have multiple projects going on, so you can make sure to make sure that you don't lose track or lose focus.
Well, when I have a lot of projects when I have many projects at the same time, I am always trying to make prioritize which is most urgent or most important in terms of time, of deadlines. I'm trying to save more time depending of the deadlines. If I have a project more closer to expire, so I will assign more resources, more time, and more effort to that project, and in that way assign it to the rest of projects. That's the way I'm doing.
Good. That was good. Real good. Now, here's the next question. And I wasn't going to do it, but I'm going to do it because this is a real thing that can really help you. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah. Well, I have many questions. This is the first time I have an opportunity to talk with you. But I'm trying to move from this background to cloud things. I don't know. It's how easy is. How do you consider easy to move to cloud architecture roles, or maybe try to move to more application architectures? So I don't know what do you think about move to cloud architecture considering my background?
Okay, so I'm going to answer that. That wasn't actually what I was trying to do. I was trying to give you the interview. When you're in an interview, the interview asks, do you have any more questions? That's a chance for you to further sell yourself. But let's actually answer your question. Then we'll dissect your interview. So what the answer to your question is, I went from practicing medicine to architect inside of 6 months. I think these architecture roles are amazing. I take people with no background and get them cloud architect hired every day of the week. I take software developers and get them hired every day of the week. I take network engineers and get them hired every day of the week. Someone's background doesn't really matter to me. What matters to me is energy, enthusiasm, and attitude. If someone's willing to work hard, they can learn it. You could and will become a great cloud architect if you desire to be too. Easy. For someone like you, when I train you, it typically takes me about 16 weeks for someone with a good background in technology to get them hired as a cloud architect. And in that, what we have to teach you is this following, and then I'm going to go through the interview. We have to teach you how to design systems end to end. And what do we need? What are you designing? You're designing network and data center technology. So we have to teach those network and data center technologies, because the cloud is all about the network and the data center, not necessarily the applications. So we'd have to do that. We'd have to teach the business acumen, some communication skills, and you would do great. That last question I answered you, how do you deal with multiple things going on at the same time? You answered that like an IT expert with 20 years experience. Perfectly. So you have all of the skeleton of the perfect cloud architect. All that you need to learn is just a different piece of technology, which again would be nothing. The processes, the procedures, all of it, everything that you're used to, it's all the same. The only thing that changes is the tools. So let's go back into this interview. So you did what you answered sounded strong and solid. Now there's a little bit of competency that we need to address, but again, someone with you and your background and that level of experience can do it great. You're answering in an interview in a language that's not even yours with perfect English. I mean, seriously, great job. That English was perfect living in Ecuador. When I worked in Panama, my Spanish wasn't that good. I tried, but it wasn't that good. But I mean, so first, impressive. Now, when we're dealing with block storage and object storage, they're both types of storage area networks, meaning they're these big giant RAID arrays that are full of hard drives. And the speed is limited by the network. Now, object storage is a different kind of storage. It's very strange storage. It's like a database. The data is broken down into objects. And basically, it's a database with a pointer to your data, which is in the form of the object. Now, what makes object storage so unique is it's good for you write once, read many times. Object storage, when it takes the data and it breaks it down into an object, which means it stores data or metadata about the object. Metadata is unique to object storage, and it makes object storage so useful. So I want you to think about this. We take our data, we break it down into an object, and it's got metadata. So think of a big data environment. Wow, metadata, you can search your data. Think about looking for parts of a file there. So object storage, think big data, think software distribution, think it cannot be used by a server. So it's like you FTPing something somewhere, but you're using S3 or Blob on Microsoft or cloud storage. So think about that in terms of object storage, software distribution, storing files, static websites. Now think of block storage by comparison as another type of storage area network, but it looks and feels like a local hard drive. And you can use block storage for files that change frequently. So you can put an operating system on it. You can store your data on it. It'll look and feel like a hard drive. So in the cloud, you use a network drive called the block storage drive to mount it like a hard drive. It's not a local hard drive. It just feels like it. Whereas object storage by comparison is storage that is stored for software distribution purposes, not usable by host. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, completely.
Oh, I see Alonzo's here. So Alonzo, welcome. Good to see you, my good friend, great cloud architect as well. So there's that. Now let's go through some of the questions we actually talked to you about. So I asked a couple of questions. I don't remember all the questions. Can anybody from the group remind me of these questions? Because I really want to address some of them.
The VPC, the connection between...
Okay, so when you have two, so a VPC or a virtual private cloud is really like an organization's virtual private data center. So that's where you put your servers and your things. So if you've got a VPC and you want to connect to another VPC, you just peer them together. You connect them together through VPC peering, and you can share the information. So when you've got two VPCs, you can just do VPC peering. If you've got three VPCs, every VPC has to connect to every VPC. So you either need to do fully mesh VPC peering where everybody connects to everybody, or you need to use something like Transit Gateway or Cloud Hub that enables hub and spoke environments. So that was one of them that we're talking about. To connect two VPCs to share information, you do VPC peering. There was another one that I wanted to address that we needed to give you. Do you remember what that was? If not, Chris from my team or somebody will pop it in.
CDN?
Oh, a content delivery network. So what a content delivery network is, it is a network, meaning routers, switches, and cables, wide area networks. And it has a bunch of locations spread throughout the world. So what happens is I'm sitting here in, say, West Palm Beach, Florida. I want to go to reach the Go Cloud Careers website. I go type on my browser www.gocloudcareers.com. My browser then hits my computer. My computer does a DNS lookup and it finds the IP address. It finds that my closest IP address is actually the content delivery network in Miami. So my request gets routed to Miami. Now, Miami is closer to me than California, where my web server is. So what'll happen is I will go to Miami. Now, when I go to Miami, what's going to occur is if the data is there, it's going to be sent to me directly, and that will give me better performance because it'll go from Miami than California. You're with me right now?
Yeah.
But if it's not in Miami, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to enter the content delivery network in Miami. It's not there. It's not cached. The content delivery network will then hit the regional cache, which is probably somewhere local. And then if it's not there, it will ride the Amazon network or the Akamai network or whoever's content delivery network you have all the way back to your web server. Instead of the public internet, it'll ride the private network, which is faster, guaranteed performance. So it'll ride the content delivery network to your web server. It'll go from your web server to the regional cache to the Miami cache and then be given to me. Now, that's how I get it. The next person in South Florida that wants to receive that same website before the cache time's out will go to Miami and be seen. So it releases the lead from the servers. Does that make sense? Do you see how that works? It's writing a private network and it's caching.
Okay.
Now, when we talked about mapping a name to an IP address with DNS, you got it. You were 100% correct. There are a couple of DNS options. A simple DNS mapping or a type A record is when you map a single name to an IP address. www.gocloudcareers to an IP address. A geolocation routing policy will sense that you're in Ecuador by your IP address. And because it sees that your IP address is in Ecuador, and it will say Spanish is the primary language spoken in Ecuador, let's serve you a Spanish-speaking page. That's geolocation routing. Now, with DNS, we could also do weighted routing. So you're an application developer. Let's say you've made a new website and an old website. Let's say you wanted to shift 10% of the traffic to the new website and keep 90% on the old one to test it out. That's where you would use something like a weighted routing policy in DNS, where you'd send 10% to one, 90% to another. And then all of a sudden, everybody likes the new website, move all the traffic to the new website. Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely.
And then let's do one more kind of DNS policy for you. Let's talk about, so we talked about geolocation. We talked about load sharing. I'm not going to go into the random one. So let's talk about a CNAME record. So I started this company, GoCloudArchitects.com, and then made an interview course. I've got Sandeep Das, my good friend in India, making a DevOps engineering course. All of a sudden, I work with some leaders from Cisco and from other great companies, and we have a leadership course. I'm no longer Go Cloud Architects, I'm now Go Cloud Careers. What is that kind of record where I can map one domain to another domain? Do you know what that's called?
CNAME.
Exactly. It's like an alias record or a CNAME record. So good job. So the answer is you got that. So the key is got really strong software background, which gives you a tremendous tech background, which makes you stand out on paper. Great. We just need to teach you a little bit more networking and data center things. And that's all it's going to take you to go from where you're at on the application side to the cloud architect side, some network and data center knowledge, because that's the club.
Okay. Thank you.
Good job, Mauro.
Hey, Chris. Thank
Very
you.
good job, Mauro.
Yeah.
Thank you,
All
guys.
right.
Very nice job.
Thank you. It was awesome. This opportunity was awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, we're glad that you completed the form and got back to us, because we're excited to give people this opportunity. So.
We really are. We love reaching out to the community. Next week, we're going to have a free AWS Advanced Networking training course on our YouTube channel. If you can attend, please do so. It's completely free.
Okay, I will do.
Yeah. So yeah, let's hear it from Mauro. Let me put all these comments up here.
Seriously, from Mauro, he came in, he volunteered. Let's give everybody a round of applause. He did great.
Yep.
He did great.
All right. Well, we've got one more person left. I'm gonna keep putting these comments in as they're coming in. Yeah,
great.
Thank you.
Mauro. Thank you for stopping by. Seriously.
Right. All right. So let me get through some of these comments, and then we'll add Ryan in. Ryan will be the last person for the day.
Sounds great. It was so much fun doing this. I love every time we have a chance to get to talk to people.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed this. And in case you haven't noticed, I'm wearing a freaking coat in my office because
I was wondering that.
Yeah, we got issues with the air conditioning over here. It's working really well.
I have mine set to be a refrigerator. Everybody's cold except for the cat with her fur. And my room turns out to be 90 degrees between all these 8 specialty light bulbs coming from one angle and the other light bulbs coming from another angle. And I've got 64 cores of workstation working on me and a couple of GPUs just to stream this. So I feel like I never get to stop sweating. That's why I think I drink 2 gallons of water a day.
Yeah. With this freaking nor'easter that we've got in Florida today, and then the air conditioner literally not going off. I'm freezing. All
I know,
right,
Virtual,
so
if you want to pop in, go. Don't worry. You don't have to be chicken. If not, I'll try and do this one more time in the future because I love interacting with the community.
oh, I got a feeling I'm going to be planning some stuff in the future. All right,
I
so let's
think you will be.
let's add Ryan in, and we'll end it on a high note. No pressure, Ryan. No pressure.
Absolutely.
Ryan, how are you?
Doing great. How are you doing?
Doing great. So Ryan has the coolest social media handle I have ever seen in my entire life. It's Perez the Dev. And when I saw that the first time, I thought that was really, really cool. So Ryan,
Thank you. Absolutely.
So-
So happy to be here. Thank you.
So Ryan, thank you for coming in to talk to ABC Cloud Service. It's really nice to have you here. So could you tell me a little bit about your background? You look awfully young, but I'm real happy to meet you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, my name is Ryan Perez. I'm a creative and analytical IT professional. I'm passionate about technology, business, and people. I've spent the last 7 years working and collaborating with people to problem solve and really just get the job done. I decided to transition to cloud as I love tech, really designing and working with people. I absolutely love to learn, problem solving, and I'm highly energetic and disciplined.
Sounds great to me. You know, we're always looking for people that are motivated. So, what'd you study in school?
Currently, I'm studying computer science and as well as a minor in finance. As like I said, I really love business and I want to better understand the business side of technology as well.
Fantastic. So, you like the business side, you like the technology. So, what do you think architects actually do? Because I need cloud architects that actually can really do a good job. What's a cloud architect do in your mind?
Well, a cloud architect will go ahead and meet with executives, meet with leaders of different companies to go ahead and really, well, first, of course, understand what the needs of their current customers' business, you know, for their multiple different clients, and then to go ahead and design the best possible solution architecture-wise for the clients.
What's your level of experience working in teams?
I've worked with teams for about the last 7 years as well, collaborating with teams and working directly with people.
Okay. You know, I don't normally get people your age that are interviewing for these big jobs, but you seem pretty competent. So, you know, what clouds have you worked with?
Well, I've mainly been working on AWS, working in the AWS cloud. And I've also been taking a look at some GCP cloud as well. But I've mainly focused on AWS. And as I grow my understanding within the data center, networking, of course, I want to further go down AWS and build my competency as well within GCP.
Okay, that sounds like a great. I'm pretty familiar with both clouds. They both have great clouds. So how would you connect the data center to the cloud? It can be GCP, it can be AWS, I don't care. What are the design considerations that you think about?
Absolutely. So to connect your data center over to the cloud, there are two considerations you really want to think of. You have your direct connection, which would go ahead and you would pretty much connect from your data center to the cloud with much more consistent throughput. Whereas something like the VPN, it has IPsec, so it encrypts all your data, but it's not as durable for latency. So with VPN, you don't really want to use it if you need something with low latency. That's where your direct connection would really come through. So you have those two opportunities of either direct connection or VPN to connect your data center to the cloud.
Nice. Okay, so what makes the direct connection have less latency or less variations in latency than the VPN that you're describing?
That would be the link aggregation. You would have the links just directly connected there, all bundled. Pretty much you take 4 different links, let's say, you bundle them together, and it provides for faster throughput.
Okay. All right. So we'll go back to that one, but you know, you're doing great. So let's figure out what I should. So what is Active Directory and why would an organization use it?
Well, Active Directory is simply a way to go ahead and manage your different users and your different groups within the organization. You would simply use it to as you say, the AAA, you would go ahead and make sure users aren't accessing things they don't really have permissions to access in order to really implement the least privilege and make sure you keep your things running and secure.
Okay, if you have two direct connections to AWS running BGP and they're equal cost, do you have anything you need to think about to make sure you don't get out of order packets?
Yes, but I haven't had the opportunity to go ahead and really dive into that just yet, but I can happily learn and really dive into it later on. Absolutely.
Good. And unless you're a CCIE network architect, chances are you haven't done that, and that was the right way to answer that. So great job. So let's talk about this. So how would you, let's say I wanted to create a disaster recovery environment of my data center, and I wanted to cost the least amount possible, but I needed to be up and 100% fully operational within 45 minutes. Oh, hi, Cindy. Within 45 minutes to an hour of the system's of an outage. What could I do? How can I make that work?
Could you repeat the first part again, please?
So I'm interested in setting up a disaster recovery environment for my data center. I'd like to use the cloud to do it. What can we do? What type of environment would I set up on the cloud that after a failure at my data center, the systems would be up at full capacity and fully operational within 45 minutes to an hour with no manual intervention? How would I set that up?
I haven't had the experience just yet to dive into that, but I can definitely go ahead and look into that, and I'm really motivated to learn more about that.
Okay, and you're doing great. So let's give you one more technical one. And that one, well, I'll tell you how you would do it within 45 minutes, because you're not going to use hot standby and you're not going to use cold standby. That one's going to take some tuning, but it's definitely the way to do it. So we'll talk about the last technical question that I'll give you. Let's try and find a good one for you on my list over here. So what is meant by stateful when I start talking about firewalls being stateful?
Absolutely. So when you have your firewall and in consideration, of course, the stateful, you have your internal user that goes outside of the firewall to go ahead and access, resources out on the public internet. And so when the user goes ahead back into the firewall, back inside their internal network, the firewall is able to pretty much track that connection back in. It recognizes, oh, okay, it's Mike from Go Cloud Architects coming back. It goes ahead and recognizes the user and allows it back in. And of course, making sure no one else has access to the internal.
Okay, great. So it's stateful, meaning the firewall is tracking the connection or what's going on, and that's how it knows to allow the return traffic back? Nice job. Really nice job. So, what is the elastic file system, and when would the elastic file system be used?
Absolutely. So elastic file system, you could think of it like your normal file system on your machine. You have your different files. I think elastic file system is really great because you can have multiple users access that file storage. So you can have multiple people go ahead and access the data within that. So I think it's actually a really great service provided by AWS.
What kind of servers can access the elastic file system?
What kind of services access the file system?
What kind of servers? Mac servers, Windows servers, Linux servers?
I'm actually not sure on the specifics, to be honest.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so we'll work through all these details for you. So the elastic file system is the Amazon branded version of Sun Microsystems, now Oracle's network file system. Mm-hmm. Who uses NFS? What kind of servers? Can mount an NFS volume? Can Windows servers do that, or Windows?
I know it's not Windows. Okay, I know it's not Windows.
So it's Unix and Linux. So Unix and Linux use the network file system. Windows uses the server message block approach.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to the disaster recovery, because You did really good. I mean, really good. So because you were doing really good, I kept throwing harder questions at you because you were doing really, really good. So let's talk about your 4 options on disaster recovery. Option 1 is you've got your data center, you make a backup of your virtual machines and a backup of all your data, and you store it in the cloud. Option 1 for disaster recovery. Disaster occurs, here's what you do. You turn all those machine images into virtual machines, you launch them. You take your data out of S3, you move it onto servers or wherever it needs to be. 12 hours later, your cloud's up and operational and you're up. So is that faster or is that slow?
It's pretty slow.
Pretty slow.
Yeah, 12 hours.
Take copies of your virtual machines, copies of all your data, keep it in the cloud, but you keep a database running in the cloud. And you synchronize the database between your data center and the cloud so they're synchronized. Now, might only take you 10 hours to come up in the event of an outage because at least your databases are synchronized. Is that going to work for most businesses?
No, absolutely not.
Now, let's talk about option 3, which is the one I want you to use. This is not a hot standby. It's more of a warm standby protocol. There's 1,000,001 names for these ridiculous things. Pilot light, warm standby. All those names are nonsense to me. I want you to understand how it works. This is, you take all your stuff and you create little mini instances in the cloud. If you've got 100 web servers, you put 1 web server in the cloud. If you've got 100 app servers, you put 1 app server in the cloud, all behind load balancers. Then you set up an auto-scaling policy. So something happens in your data center, DNS notices it via the health check, DNS reroutes you to the cloud. All of this traffic hits your load balancers and web servers, which can't access all of the information. And because not all of it can be accessed, auto-scaling basically scales up, and it will take 45 minutes to an hour for this environment to truly work. So that is what's probably best for the majority of organizations. Do you know how expensive it is to have a backup copy of your data center in the cloud? A lot.
Sure, it's very expensive, yeah.
You know how cheap it is to have a 50 virtual machines running and have an auto-scaling policy? They just grow as needed. How awesome is that?
Beauty of the cloud.
It is the beauty of the cloud. It is amazing. It is awesome. And those are the reasons why. So that is why we do this. The last option would be if you've got 1,000 servers in your data center, you have 1,000 servers in the cloud and it's identical. That's a hot standby. Now, we don't need that here. There are banks that need that. There are healthcare organizations that need that. So really building all of this is about the availability system. So you answered those 2 great. Now, there was a technical question before that. I don't remember. Do you remember what it was?
You asked about the file system.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about file systems. As we mentioned, NFS is used for Windows, server message block for Windows. There were a couple others we did. You had done really great on what the architects do. That initial, tell me about yourself, those welcoming, they were really rock solid. You also did something that I really love. So you're young. Now, in your case, that's working against you, but you played to your strengths. So if you're 70 or if you're 20, you're not in that generic 35 to 55, which is the best place to be an architect, where people assume you've got some wisdom and experience, but you're not too young and you're not too old. Okay. So when you're young at your age, what I need you to do is as follows. The gestures you used when you spoke were great. They added more executive presence and gravitas.
Okay.
You spoke a little too fast. So we have to balance this with you because you are so young. And when you're young, your strength is the speed of learning, the ability to remember things, and the energy level that you have, which people like me that are older don't have. So that is your strength. So we want to get you to speak quickly, to show energy, enthusiasm, and passion, but we still need to raise that at gravitas or that presence. So I would say let's slow it down 10%. So what I want you to do is follow us because you were solid, and not just a little solid, but rock solid. I mean, that was awesome. I mean, that was really great. So I want to make it a little more. So tell me about something you know a lot about. Just pick something you're an expert on. I don't care what it is.
Well, I really enjoy within technology. Anything? I really enjoy personal development.
Yoga, I don't care. Just tell me something that you know a lot about and you love.
I really enjoy personal development and productivity. Read a lot of books on it as well.
Okay. Tell me why you enjoy it.
Well, I really enjoy a lot about personal development because I'm very hungry to continually grow and learn about the world, grow my perspective, as well as really share that knowledge with other people as well. Very passionate about educating other people as I go on my journey as well, and really trying to improve myself from the day before. I think is really one of my main missions in life.
Okay. Very solid. No, I want to do it a little differently.
Okay.
I like professional development because, and then make your first point, pause, emphasize it. Make your next point, pause, emphasize that next point. Collect your thoughts. Slow it down 10%. Let's give it a shot.
All right. Well, I really enjoy personal and professional development because I love the fact that as I continually learn and grow, I can go ahead and help other people around me. So I'm very passionate about helping elevate not just myself, but the people, family, friends, and community around me improve from the day before. I also really love professional development as my main mission in life is to continually improve for myself from the day before. And so I think with learning from other people, in this sense, books, I can definitely grow my perspective, my understanding, and eventually become a master at the craft.
Much better. Now I want you to try, I want to get you to straight CEO level right now because you're so coachable and so tunable. I want to get you, I want to teach you how to act like a CEO at 22 years old or whatever age you are. So
just turned 23.
23. Okay, whatever that is, that's just amazing. So like Alonzo says, Ryan is wise behind his years. So honestly, you're doing great. So I like professional development because it enables me to get better every day. Try it that way. I get better every day. Just try something like, I like professional development because hit it hard, make a point, hit your next point, hammer it home, slow and methodical, and use the gestures because I feel you. You've got some presence. It's good.
Okay. I really like professional development because it helps me become better every single day. As I continue to learn and expand my perspective on the world, I can continually improve every single day and help and better help other people along with me.
Okay. Everybody in the audience, did you see the difference? Did you feel the difference? Ryan, did you feel the difference?
Yes, absolutely. Much more clear, and I was able to articulate much better.
I had to take the jacket off. It's so hot in here. Jeez, man. Woo.
Thank you.
Ryan, that was awesome. I'm so happy you're one of our students. At 23 years old, you're doing better than people that I can't even imagine would do with 20 years experience.
Wow.
That was awesome.
If I was like that when I was 23, I'm 35, by the way. If I was like that at 23,
really? No way.
Oh my!
You look so young.
Thank you, by the way. Yeah, you can't see the grays.
No, I can.
Yeah, it's the lighting. I do it on purpose. But if I was like that, if I was where you are when I was 23, I can only imagine after 12 years where I would be now. I mean, where you're going to be when you're my age is astronomical. I mean, it's exponential. My words are not coming out.
Yeah, 23 years old. I'm like so excited that you're my student because I can't even imagine what's going to happen at 24.
I mean, that was you're coachable also.
Very coachable. So, Ryan,
thank you.
I mean, that was just really, really great. So we've interviewed a bunch of people. We've provided some feedback. Now, what questions came out of the day? Because if anybody has any questions, I want to make sure we close them, answer your questions, and get all of you prepared to be cloud hired.
Yeah, let me get all these comments about Ryan up here, like I did for everybody else.
Ryan, I did want to follow up with a question.
Yeah.
Just I know for like an interview, I'm curious to provide some value to the community. What would you say? Sorry, let me go ahead and structure it before. What does it really take to go ahead and be a successful cloud architect in the organization?
And that would be a great question. And what I would say, and I'll give you a slightly different way to answer that question, and then if I would answer it, I would say what I'm looking for are people that have strong technical competencies, stellar customer service skills, highly emotionally intelligent, great team players, and can bring out the best in others. That's what I would say. Now, what's the best question to ask someone when they have any more questions? That would be excellent. Excellent, excellent. Again, your wife's behind your ears. You know what else would be? Could you tell me what's most important to you? And that way, if I was part of your team, I know I could make you successful.
Yeah.
What does the hiring manager care about? Getting their problems solved. So you did a really great job. So pretty good amount of emotional intelligence. Granted, you've done some training and some reading there at your young age. Obviously, you're far more emotionally intelligent than the average 23-year-old or 33-year-old. You did a great job on that presentation. Clearly, that's why you won that contest when we had a promotion contest to see who could write the best social media post to promote something. And when we saw it, we were blown away. So extraordinarily, extraordinarily good job. Now,
thank you, Mike.
You're going to do great. There's a gentleman here, Adam, on this call that's also young, who also impresses me every 5 minutes with what he's done. I've got another Daniel who's pretty smart. I've got lots of young people, and they all do wonderful. But I got to tell you, I am really excited. That is a way to finish off an interview day. One of my students does something like that, and I'm blown away. Like I said, we pick people from all over. You happen to be one of my students. I've had a few of my students. I've had some other people that are not. I don't really care. Well, I was just happy and honored to bring people together from the world and try and do some interview coaching. Great job.
Awesome.
All right. Well, I'm going to bring everybody back in, and then so you can thank everybody, and then we'll close it out. I'll let you close it out by yourself, Mike. But just bring everybody in so you can thank them. All right. I think I got everybody that's still here.
Yeah, which is really great. So first, thank you for coming on. I know this is a scary thing. It's scary being on an interview as is, and it's even scarier being on it live in a forum with the whole world to see. But, whether it was Evita or Moro or Bob or Whitfield or Jazz or Amaranth or Ryan, I mean, you guys were amazing today. Great job, all of you. Seriously, let's have a round of applause for every one of these guys. They worked hard. This is seriously impressive stuff. So highly, highly, highly recommend it. You guys did great. Super, 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 super happy. And Ryan, I see Ryan White's got a question or two. So we'll pick up questions in the end. I want to make sure we answer everybody's questions, but you guys all did great.
Thank
A
you.
little bit of housekeeping while we're waiting. Next week, we have a free AWS Advanced Networking course. I'd like all of my own students to attend. And anybody else on the internet that wants to, please do so. Chris, could you pop a link to that free registration and pop it in the chat box on YouTube? Definitely a round of applause for you guys. You guys did amazing. So, yes.
Mike, if I can say one thing. So I'm proud of everybody that participated. It takes a lot of guts. A lot of people joined last minute, and it's nerve-wracking. I'm really proud of you all. Thank you so much for giving the support to the audience. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks.
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback on that. Like Jay said, there was a lot of last-minute people that joined. Some people from the community, like Morrow and Chris and Whitfield, that signed up through our registration for a chance to take part, along with the students. And I know there's a lot of people that wanted to and weren't quite sure of themselves. One of those being Amaranth. And he was like, all right, I'm just going to do it. And lo and behold, he was awesome. So exactly. I think all of you guys and girls getting on here and doing this, I hope that it goes a long way to showing some of those other people that might have been on the line like Amaranth was, who may not be fully confident in themselves. Maybe this pushes them over the edge to realize, okay, I can do it. I'm ready. I can start taking some shots. Because you're not gonna, you won't succeed until you start taking the shots. So
And that is actually, if you don't ever step up to the plate, you can never win. So, wanted to
Says
give you
the
guys,
guy that never watches sports.
That's true. But I have been to a baseball game in my youth. I don't understand football, the American one or the European one very much. I know it's about taking a ball from one side of the sport to the other, but I know a lot about martial arts and Olympic gymnastics and competitive swimming and doing triathlons and Olympic weightlifting, just nothing with a ball because they're the sports I haven't played. But, there's that. So Ryan White asked a very good question. How do you become more emotionally intelligent?
Yeah, I got to find it. I can't find it. So I'm going to go ahead and take everybody else off the screen, including myself, and leave Mike up here. Thank you, everybody, for taking part in this.
Thank you.
Thank you. You guys did amazingly well.
Thank you for having us, guys.
There we go. All right, thank you. I'm going to remove everybody else from the studio, so you guys are free to go. You're no longer held captive.
You can play on YouTube, whichever you like. We like to hold people hostage. So let's make sure we answer Ryan White's question. Ryan wanted to know about how to become more emotionally intelligent. And Ryan, emotional intelligence is the biggest predictor of your long-term success. Ryan, emotional intelligence has to do with the ability to control your emotions as well as the ability to control other people's emotions. So there's a lot of things that you can do. There's Daniel Goldman and Richard Boyatis came up with the term emotional intelligence about 25 years ago or so. I would read their books. They've got some very good information there. Quite frankly, we do a couple of things. We use the Daniel Goldman methods. We use all the emotional intelligence methods that I got taught when, in the practice of medicine, because we have to do a lot of things with regards to emotional intelligence in medicine. So we happen to teach that, Ryan. Now, I will tell you, if you can control your emotion, then and manage it, you'll be better. So if you can do some form of meditation, I'll tell you one of the things that I do, Ryan. I practice yoga. Yoga is a breathing exercise. Now, yoga can help. There's some things with regards to cognitive behavior therapy to take your thoughts and control your thoughts. But realistically speaking, how do you become emotionally intelligent or more emotionally intelligent? I'll give you a couple of guidelines. One, Ryan, be incredibly open-minded. When people tell you things, just listen. Don't ever judge them, and people will be willing to take you things. Ask open-ended questions. Again, open-minded. You can't afford to be judgmental ever. So learn how to be calm. Learn how to be open-minded. Now, the key skill of emotional intelligence is actually empathy. It's one of the most critical skills. Empathy, Ryan, is seeing things from another person's perspective. So focus on, how do you see things from another person's perspective? I strongly, strongly recommend that. Now, that, by the way, is the most critical skill. Study empathy. You can learn empathy from the business world, but you know what? You can basically, in healthcare, there's going to be some good lessons on how to be more empathetic. Empathetic is seeing things from another perspective, which is different than sympathy, which is feeling bad for someone in the course of their struggle. So there's learn how to control your emotions through a combination of meditation or cognitive behavior therapy, which are things that you can look. There's a good book called Feeling Good by David Burns. It is an old self-help book. And normally speaking, I wouldn't talk about it. But I did my clinical rotations at the University of Pennsylvania that had Albert Ellis and David Burns, the founders of cognitive behavior therapy. Cognitive behavior therapy is used by Navy SEALs. It's used by Olympians and other high-performance people to be able to take a negative thought and turn it into a positive thought, which is really necessary to be there. So Ryan Wright, I'd say a few things. Focus on your empathy. Focus on being open-minded. Focusing on asking open-ended questions. And being able to do that will help a lot. And then focus on learning how to keep yourself calm and manage other people's emotions. So I do yoga. Now, Ryan, I know where you're at. I will tell you, practicing yoga outside, I live in a Jamaican neighborhood, and listening to Collie Buds while you're doing your yoga meditation is probably not the best musician to be living for. But having said that, any kind of meditation you have, my version of meditation is listening to reggae music and practicing Ashtanga yoga. That's my version of meditation, but whatever it takes to be there is realistically good. So I like a little bit of cognitive behavior therapy. I love the work of Daniel Goldman and Richard Boyatis. I think it was Richard Boyatis. I definitely like all the empathy training that I received in medicine. So I would say look up empathy. Definitely do the emotional intelligence book at minimum from the Boyatis and Goldman folks. And that should give you a great starting point, Ryan. And then Ryan, if you've got any questions, you know how to reach me. I think you're doing great, especially for your age. You're doing amazingly, amazingly well. Daniel Mitra, what do you think of mentoring and teamwork experiences, skills from volunteering outside of one's professional experience? Daniel, I think they are incredible experiences, and leading sports teams, leading children, leading people turns you into a great leader. So I think it's a wonderful idea, Daniel. I've learned a lot of leadership by being a crew chief as a paramedic and other kinds of cool things. I don't care where it is. It can be from volunteer work. It's experience, it's leadership. It counts. Life is cumulative, and I think it's amazing. Definitely feel strongly about that. Chintan, I want to buy stock in Ryan's future too. Whatever he's going to do, we know is going to do really well. I'm 100% in agreement with you, Chintan. Mesafin. Okay, Mesafin. I always love that frog that you have there. So Mesafin, the book is called Feeling Good. The author is David Burns, and I might even have a copy. I usually keep about 101 copies of this book because what happens is I occasionally still practice medicine as a volunteer. And usually somebody's having a hard time in their life, and I give them this book. This is the book. It's an old book. It's called Feeling Good by David Burns, MD. It is based upon cognitive behavior therapy. Here is the thing of this book and why I like this book. Humans all make 10 thinking errors. Here's a thinking error. If there's 100 people on this call, and 99 of you give me a thumbs up, and one of you gives me a thumbs down, the thinking error would be to focus on the one person that said something negative, not the 99 that said something positive. So the point is, we all have 10 thinking errors, and those 10 thinking errors affect our thoughts, which cause anxiety, which cause depression, which cause us to lose our cool. And when we lose our cool, we lose our emotional intelligence. So deep breathing, meditation, controlling your thoughts, all very valuable things. So glad we got that for you, Mesafin. Are there any other questions, Chris?
Nope, I think that's it.
Okay, well, it's 5:24. It's a Friday. Please join us next week for the free AWS Advanced Networking training. It's going to be a ton of fun. Chris, and is there any things that I need to mention?
So we got the the whole day was about interviews, and there's this thing that we have, up here about interviews.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So what Chris was trying to tell us is we have an interview preparation program that we've made with the folks over at IT Excel. They have 20 recruiters in New York that each have 20 years experience. So that's 400 years experience plus my 20 some years experience. We have a complete and total interview mastery program that we're releasing in 2 weeks. Anything else that I don't know to talk about, Chris?
Let's see, Mr. YouTube, you gotta ask them to hit the like button.
Oh, please hit the like button and subscribe. I'm learning how to use YouTube by the day.
And you gotta ask them to. Oh, nobody's done a cloud. Oh yeah, here we go. You gotta ask them to do this right here.
Okay, and if you could all type hashtag cloud hired. I'm learning how to use social media platforms. Been an architect for decades. I'm loving the social media. It enables me to connect to people. But I'm learning hard that we have to smash the like button, forward to other people, because there's algorithms involved. And if we don't hit the algorithms, nobody sees the content and we can't help anybody. So thank you for reminding me, Chris.
Hey, that's my job, among many other things.
Among many other things.
Oh, so that's everything. I got a feeling there's going to be a lot of cloud hireds, so I'm just going to keep clicking the button here.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I love knowing that you're awake, alert, and oriented. So
we do have we've got the boot camp next week, AWS Advanced Networking. There's a lot of disappointed people for CCNA because they just didn't get out the vote and let AWS Advanced Networking win by 1 vote. So we've got AWS Advanced Networking next week, and I got a feeling Mike's going to do CCNA eventually.
There may be a CCNA. I might be working with a really great cloud architect to possibly put together an Azure one. somebody on this call who's really, really, really solid, and I might be working on that in our spare time. So, you know, if that occurs, you know, I've got a friend who's a little bit like James Bond. He's really good at helping me put these things together. Yeah, there's one guy that looks like James Bond right there.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been a great day. I've enjoyed it.
So I'm not saying that's who it is, but there are people that I'm definitely going to be working with to try and do some cool Azure stuff too. Because, you know, learn the cloud, not a vendor, but, you know, we still want you to get familiar with everything that's out there. So thank you. Have a really wonderful weekend. It's such an honor and a privilege to be part of this community. Honestly, I'm honored just for being part of this. Thank you for inviting me. Anything that we can do to help you have the best cloud computing careers, please let us know. Have an absolutely wonderful weekend.